He's stronger than he has ever been in this process. And look, I served with Ron DeSantis. He's not at the same level as President Trump by any shape or form.
Hey, what's up, folks? We have a fun show for you today. Kevin McCarthy praised Trump and said that DeSantis isn't on his level, and DeSantis responded.
But I'd also say, since Kevin's been in Congress, they've added trillions and trillions of dollars to the debt, even when we had unified Republican government.
We'll look at both of those. Trump put out a True Social about his abortion take after a lot of the backlash from the pro-life community, saying that he is pro-life. I'm gonna read his response and tell you what I think. Senator Tim Scott posed with McDonald's because he's just like you, holding up his McDonald's fries. Cool. And Russell Brand has been suspended of making money on YouTube for violating its, quote, creator responsibility policy. How far will they go with this policy, and does it apply to everyone? We'll talk about it. God bless you guys. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. I have 3 stories I want to get through, so I'm going to play some clips, respond to them, and then do it. The first one is Kevin McCarthy pretty much has said that he's backing Trump, had a lot of compliments for him, and kind of did a subtle dig at DeSantis, saying he's not on Trump's level. So I want to play all those clips, and then I want you to hear DeSantis's response, then we'll move forward. So I chopped it up into 3 clips. Here's Kevin McCarthy talking to Maria Bartiromo, who kind of hurts my eardrums, but that's okay. God bless the lady.
All of that, the policies that you mentioned of the Biden administration, is one reason that Donald Trump is leading in the polls right now. What's your take on this, that as we see more indictments of Donald Trump, he seems to be gaining in terms of popularity with the public? Will he be the nominee?
I think he will be the nominee. And the thing is, President Trump is stronger today than he was in 2016 or 2020. And there's a reason why. They saw the policies of what he was able to do with America, putting America first, making our economy stronger.
Okay. Next clip, sorry.
Making our economy stronger. We didn't have inflation. We didn't have these battles around the world. We didn't look weak around the world.
Well, it looks like Ron DeSantis is now trying to work with your colleagues who are pushing for a shutdown.
Yeah, but I don't think that would work anywhere. A shutdown would only give strength to the Democrats. It would give the power to Biden. It wouldn't pay our troops. It wouldn't pay our border agents. More people would be coming across. I actually want to achieve something. And this is where President Trump is so smart, that he was successful in this. You know, President Trump is beating Biden.
Classic. All right, one more real quick.
You know, President Trump is beating Biden right now in the polls.
Yeah, we have the poll. Let's show it.
He's stronger than he has ever been in this process. And look, I served with Ron DeSantis. He's not at the same level as President Trump by any shape or form. He would not have gotten elected without President Trump's endorsement. And so I believe our best step forward, pass our appropriation bills so we're stronger. Take the wokeism out, secure our border to make a.
So it seems like some people want the government to shut down, and it seems like DeSantis is on that side. And also, it's important to remember that President Trump endorsed Kevin McCarthy. There was like a huge backlash from Matt Gaetz, Anna Paulina, a few dissidents who were saying they didn't want Kevin McCarthy to be there. I know that DeSantis backed the female lawyer who was running against McCarthy, and Trump had backed McCarthy. So, I think that also, I think Trump is a massive favorite to win the next election. So Kevin has his back there. But correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like he was upset that DeSantis was trying to maybe be on the side of the government shutdown, and they want to fund our military. I guess that's all they pretend to do. They're like, oh, our troops are going to be really strong if you give us all the money and we print all the money. It's like, maybe, hopefully, yeah, God bless the troops, but I'm not sure that's what the spending bill is going to be about. Probably some more stuff. Anyway, let's listen to DeSantis's response real quick, and then we'll talk about it and then move to the next story. I promise the next one's really funny, so just bear with me.
You heard the speaker's comments.
Hey,
Would you like to respond? You're not on the same level as Trump. Respond to that, please.
Well, sure. I mean, I think, I ran 16 points better than Trump in Florida. I won the greatest victory that's ever been won by a Republican in the history of governor's races. We were supposed to have a red wave in 2022. That crashed and burned around the country. Florida, we did. We delivered them 4 additional Republican congressmen that was instrumental in getting them the bare majority that they have. And
Let me play the second part of that clip.
I'd also say, since Kevin's been in Congress, they've added trillions and trillions of dollars to the debt. Even when we had unified Republican government, since I've been governor of Florida, we've actually paid down almost 25% of our total state debt. We've won budget surpluses every year, and we have the top rated economy in the entire United States. And so we've shown the ability to win big politically and also to deliver on our promises. And that's, I think, what Republican voters want. We always hear the rhetoric, and then the results usually don't follow. With me, everything I promised I do, I've delivered.
I mean, I thought that was a pretty solid response. Before we move on, I guess this is my take on it. One angle, because I'm always looking for interesting angles, is when Kevin McCarthy was nominated, you had a lot of people were trying to back, I forget her name, but she's a very prominent female lawyer in the Republican Party that's been at the head of a lot of big lawsuits, and she was running against McCarthy. Personally, I wanted her to win. I don't know if she would have done a great job, but I feel like McCarthy, it's the same old, same old. I'm not fully impressed with what the Republicans have been able to get, especially when they had, Senate, House. I know that was Paul Ryan there, but still, I just, no disrespect to Kevin McCarthy as a person or anything. I've never met him, but I was hoping that someone new would win. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I think I'm getting this confused, so I apologize. I think that was the female lawyer was running against Ronna Romney McDaniel. I believe that was the thing. So I apologize for messing that up. That was for the GOP chairwoman of the head of the GOP, and she was running against her. With Kevin McCarthy, I forget. Do you guys remember who the person running against was? I guess it didn't matter. But long story short, I know that Trump kind of had McCarthy's back and was like, hey, let's just get it going. And a lot of congressmen and congresswomen were like, no, we're going to blockade him and try to get a few things for leverage. So apologize. I got those two confused. Long story short, I mean, I don't really know what to think about that besides the fact that when that was all happening, a lot of people that I follow were like, if you back Kevin McCarthy, you're a traitor. They said Marjorie Taylor Greene was a traitor because she backed Kevin McCarthy. Thomas Massie was a traitor because he backed Kevin McCarthy. I like Thomas Massie. Marjorie Taylor Greene seems cool. I mean, I don't, I guess there's criticism that's valid of her. But what I found fascinating was this hard line. If you back Kevin McCarthy during this blockade, you're a traitor. Didn't apply to Trump, who was backing Kevin McCarthy. So that's kind of, I'll let you guys interpret that as you will. I mean, clearly Kevin McCarthy likes Trump. He's the nominee. He's the favorite. Trump's kind of always had his back. They've worked together. So makes sense that he would like him more than DeSantis. I guess the angle that's interesting to me and the reason that I brought it up, I don't feel like arguing about it or making a big stink out of it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But just the inconsistencies that I see in a lot of people's reporting where it's like, if you back Kevin McCarthy, you're a straight traitor and it doesn't matter what you do. Okay. Is that the logic we're going by? Sure. I don't think I agree with that because maybe there's a reason, but okay. But what about that guy? Is he? Well, no, because I like him a lot. It's like, so what's the point? If Kevin McCarthy came out and said, Ron DeSantis is the man, Donald Trump sucks, we got to beat him, everyone would be like, see, Kevin McCarthy's a rhino. Kevin McCarthy's a rhino. He's establishment. He's a globalist, whatever. But then when Kevin McCarthy does that with Trump, it's like, oh, yeah, Kevin McCarthy's awesome now, or he's right, or, broken clock's right twice a day. That's really the only angle that interests me because I think there is an element, and we'll talk about it in a second, there is an element of playing chess with politics. I know it's easy to have opinions from the sidelines, but you do need certain numbers, certain amounts of people. Sometimes there is compromises, I guess, that you have to make. So, I'm willing to talk about them all. I think being principled is always better. I like Thomas Massie. He's my favorite Republican personally, even though I don't know if I've agreed with everything he's ever done. But the inconsistency is the bizarre part to me. Real quick, we're going to do a segue. This is a compilation I brought together because Senator Tim Scott sat at a McDonald's and he wants to show you how just like you, he is eating his McDonald's. So I put together this little compilation, and I'm just going to freestyle a song and make it up as we go. The song is called The Republican Party, Vaccines, McDonald's, and Endless Debt. So sing along with me if you know the lyrics, which you shouldn't, because I'm going to make it up as I go along. Howdy, y'all. I'm Tim Scott, eating McDonald's just like you. I'm an American man. We're part of the Republican Party. We eat McDonald's and we get vaccines, and we fund big pharma just like you. Look at me, I'm Tim Scott. I got my COVID vaccine. Heck yeah. It's very similar to the flu shot. Endless debt, vaccines, McDonald's. Isn't this inspiring, patriots? Are we just gonna run to the polls? Don't we love this stuff? I mean, yeah. Oh yeah, Tim. Look out, Tim. I think. Oh, who's that? Oh no. Uh-oh. Somebody's creeping, Tim. You gotta watch out. Listen, if you don't watch your back, that Grimace, he'll sneak up on you for sure. So, I just want you to. Oh, hey, Tim, come. Listen, you got to watch out for Grimace. He's a sneaky guy. No disrespect. I know the media is going to report that. They're like, anomaly said Grimace. No, someone made this for me because I saw Tim Scott eating McDonald's, and I tweeted, I said, hey, can somebody Photoshop Grimace next to Tim Scott, because it would be funny. And someone, Truth Media, True Stream News, they did this. Look, it's so good. You could even see right there. They got like the hand behind him. Very good Photoshop job. And, Tim Scott, you're crushing, bro. America loves you. We're all just like you. Rural, urban, it don't really matter. Just get your vaccines, eat your McDonald's, and run that debt up, and just blame Joe Biden for the debt that you yourself ran up and made fun of. I'm not saying Joe Biden's innocent, for those who are like, oh, you think Biden's amazing now? No, Biden sucks. Of course, he's also running up the debt, but it's like Republicans print $10 trillion and sell vaccines, and they're like, oh, it was the Democrats. If you follow cat turd long enough, we'll fight the Democrats and Nancy Pelosi. And it's like, just watch out for Grimace. He's a sneaky purple guy. And I'm not a racist, okay? I like purple people, black people, blue people. You notice when people try to say they're not racist, they're always like, I love all people. I love black people, white people, Asians. I love purple, green, yellow, aliens. It's like, all right, bro, we get it. You're not a racist. Like, it's like how the liberals talk. They just tweet all the time, like, I'm not racist. Tuesday, I'm not okay. But you know what I'm saying? When people are like, I like purple, yellow, orange, green. I mean, I like all people. You're like, are there even purple people? I guess Grimace. It's like, listen, if Grimace moved to my neighborhood, I'd be totally fine with it. I'm just saying, I don't care who you are, what color you are, what planet you came from, what species you are. It doesn't matter. I mean, Snuffleupagus. That's who I want. Is my not jokes aside. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Tim Scott. I just had to make a little joke out of his little McDonald's tweet. It's just funny. Anyway, that was not exactly what I had planned, but I don't regret it one bit. We're going to get into, before the Russell Brand situation, we're going to talk about Trump on True Social. And I'm going to take votes today because I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's just boring to read Trump's things. Should I read it in my terrible Trump voice, or should I read it in a normal voice? Because Trump now has responded to his pro-life debacle that happened, because he has spoken at the March for Life, and he's like, we're saving babies out here. And then he's on MSNBC, and he's like, the heartbeat bill was a mistake that DeSantis passed. So I think it was like some sort of damage control, where he's trying to explain what happened. Trump voice or not Trump voice? All right, everyone voted Trump voice. Sorry to the people. There's going to be like 20 people in the comments that are like, anomaly, stop mocking Trump. I'm not trying to mock him. Can you even read a Trump tweet without saying it in Trump's voice? It doesn't make sense, without it. All right. So here's what he put. It's going to take a while. I apologize for the delay, but it's a 3-part Truth Social, explanation for his little abortion situation. Someone said, you love all people. Come on. That's crazy talk. I mean, technically, no, I don't like everybody. It's not like everyone on planet Earth. I'm like, oh, everybody's amazing. It's like, no, there's some losers out there in every group, but there's also some winners in every group. I was just virtue signaling, listen, if you look like Grimace, I don't care. I don't care what color you are. You could be purple and you can, you can come to my barbecue. Just don't be weird and don't pose like Tim Scott with McDonald's fries. You'll scare the other neighbors. Anyway, jokes aside, here's the Trump explanation for the whole pro-life thing. He said, I was able to do something that nobody thought was possible. And Roe versus Wade. For 52 years, people talked, spent vast amounts of money, but nobody could get the job done. I got the job done. Thanks to the 3 great Supreme Court justices I appointed, the issue has been returned to the states where all legal scholars on both sides felt it should be. Now, the pro-life community has tremendous negotiating power, all caps. Like Ronald Reagan before me, I believe in the 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of a mother. Without the exceptions, it is very difficult to win elections. We would probably lose the majorities in 2024 and perhaps the presidency itself, but you must follow your heart. Heart in all capitals. You must follow your heart. Even though Trump literally just said he thinks the heartbeat bill's a mistake, but you must follow your heart, but I won't follow my heart, but I will follow my heart, but I won't. No, I'm kidding. That part I made up. Here, let me get back to the real one. In order to win in 2024, Republicans must learn how to talk about abortion. This issue costs us unnecessarily but dearly in the midterms. We have to expose the Democrats like crooked Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as being the true radicals on the abortion issue. Sorry, there's nothing funny about that. But anyway, in that they allow the killing of babies in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th month, and even after birth. But it was okay to rip the baby up out of the womb under Roe versus Wade and destroy a living soul. Now, with Roe versus Wade no longer, the power to negotiate is with the pro-life movement, not the radical left Democrats who are so willing to destroy a life. This broadcast is sponsored by Moderna. No, I'm just kidding. But everything now, it's like Pfizer, Moderna, Pfizer, Grimace. Get your Grimace shake. All right. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, what do you guys think of Trump's, explanation? I would say this, and I played the maybe I'll try to play it again. Hopefully my screen doesn't freeze. I probably shouldn't, but sometimes it freezes halfway through. But here's what he said in the interview that kind of caused all the controversy.
I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake.
So he said DeSantis is willing to sign a 5 or 6 week ban, which is a terrible mistake, right? That's what Trump said. He's referring to what's now known as a heartbeat bill. And, I'm not trying to tell people what to believe on abortion. Like, I don't think I'm your spiritual guide in that sense. You could go with your heart, the science, how you feel. Maybe your religion plays a part, but I'm just strictly talking about who are you? Because when he's at the pro-life rallies, I would say probably over 99% of the people there believe that a heartbeat is a life. I would guess, I'm no pollster, but I would guess a majority of people at the March for Life, which is a anti-abortion, pro-life march, most people there think that birth starts at conception, right? I would guess that most people there think that. I would guess that most people at the March for Life think that a heartbeat bill is actually a compromise. Like, it's not like where they would draw the line earlier, but they prefer a heartbeat bill over a 15-week bill or whatever. So I would guess when he's speaking to the pro-life movement, I don't have these statistics. I don't know, but I would guess that 99+% of the people that he's speaking to at a March for Life, they think that a heartbeat bill is a good idea and they should go further. So when he's in front of the March for Life, he's Mr., pro-life. When he's on MSNBC, he thinks that a heartbeat bill is a mistake. And what he was saying here, I mean, I understand what he's talking about politically. Like, yeah, I think that abortion is an issue that a lot of people want. They want abortions. Like, even in certain Republican states, people are voting for abortions. It's true. I guess the angle that I'm not quite sure of, that I don't understand, is like, I guess I just don't know what he believes. I'm guessing that I'm guessing that he does support abortions, but he doesn't want the pro-life movement to know, because then they won't like him. So it's this game of I'm pro-life, but also I want the left. Politics is a crazy place. It's hard to get everyone to like you, or even 60% of a population to like you. I just don't know that it's true that you can't win an election running pro-life. I don't think that that's true. If you look at Georgia, Governor Kemp won the election of Georgia quite handily, right? He signed a pro-life bill, a heartbeat bill, before that election. Trump picked Herschel Walker, who I'm not sure what his stance on abortion is, but it was probably similar. He lost, but he never signed a heartbeat bill because he's never been in power except in football and other ways. I like Herschel Walker. He's chill. I'm just saying, he wasn't in office. He didn't pass any legislation. He didn't win. So Governor Kemp won, and Trump's handpicked guy lost. In Pennsylvania, Dr. Oz kind of played the fence. He was kind of liberal on abortion. He lost the election. There's other examples of people that are pro-life winning elections. And then, of course, there are ones that it does affect elections. I personally think a few things. First of all, I think that DeSantis, I don't know now after maybe his reputation's tarnished because people don't like him because of the whole Trump versus DeSantis thing. But I think that he'll probably win in Florida if he runs. Hold on, I'm just going to put my phone on silent. I think he'll probably win in Florida if he runs again as governor, even though he passed the heartbeat bill. I think DeSantis went pretty hardline on a lot of topics, and, he still won. Someone said Kemp is a rhino. You could say that, but Kemp opened the country before Trump did. And I think that's part of the reason he won too, is because the people of Georgia remember that Governor Kemp disagreed and disobeyed the Trump-Fauci guidelines, and Trump was not happy about it. Neither was Fauci. So if Kemp is a rhino, what does that make a guy who locked down longer than Kemp? I don't think the standards are always applied to both sides of that equation. But long story short, I don't know. I've come to the conclusion after listening to Trump and listening to how he kind of talks about DeSantis, et cetera, and I'm trying to be as nice as I possibly can and honest. I know people might get mad at this for whatever reason, but to me, this is what pattern recognition has showed me. Trump, he will say whatever he has to say in order to try to make DeSantis look bad. So let me give you a few examples, because that's what he did with the abortion thing, where I'm trying to figure out, which one do you believe? I want to know what you believe and what you'll do, and then I'll figure it out from there. But with COVID, for years, when Trump and DeSantis were on the same page, Trump would speak and say DeSantis is doing a great job on COVID, right? They were trying to say that DeSantis was killing millions of people because he left the state open. They called him Death Santis, Death Santis. I got my first media smears because I was defending Florida, saying I think they're doing a better job. I think you're lying about the data. So I wouldn't call myself an expert, quote unquote, the trusted COVID experts, but I've done a lot of research and work in that category. So I've spent, I would say hundreds of hours crunching the numbers and defending Florida and DeSantis because they were open. Trump was on my side. Trump was on DeSantis's side. It's not about him or him. It's about, what do you believe? Do you believe that opening states kills a lot of people? Do you believe the numbers? Do you understand how PCR tests work? Do you understand how they're counting cases? They're counting cases without even using PCR tests. If you died with COVID, they said you died from COVID. I could spend, and I've already spent, so I'm not going to repeat. I could tell you 15 different ways that I believe that these numbers, although they represent something, it's heavily cooked, because even Dr. Birx admitted they're counting very liberally. Elon said it well on Joe Rogan's podcast in 2020. He's like, if you get eaten by a shark with COVID, they could count it as a COVID death. And Joe Rogan's like, you're exaggerating, right? And he's like, well, kind of, but not really, because that is how loosely they're counting in hospitals. They don't care if it wasn't the thing that put you over the edge. If you just simply test positive for it, they're calling it a COVID death. So you have to understand, I spent hundreds of hours trying to explain this data to people. Trump was on my side. DeSantis was on my side for years. And then as soon as DeSantis runs against Trump, now Trump flips to the other side and says DeSantis, he technically didn't do that good with COVID. DeSantis, he actually had more deaths than Cuomo did. DeSantis, and then he puts out an email blast and says Florida's one of the worst places to live. Florida's one of the worst places to retire. Florida's one of the worst places to be a police officer. And it's like, this is my pattern recognition with Trump, whether people want to like it or believe it or not. he will say whatever he has to say to try to make DeSantis look good, which then makes me question, like, who is Trump? Does he believe anything? Does he have any principles? Is he consistent on certain things? Sure. But it's like Trump doesn't actually believe that DeSantis did a bad job on COVID. He's just saying that because he wants to win the election. Trump doesn't actually believe that, DeSantis had more deaths than Cuomo. And if he did, he's an idiot because he doesn't even understand how they're counting PCR tests, how loosely. Like, if Trump gave even half a crap, he would be like, okay, well, these numbers are cooked anyway because this is how they're counting. Anybody with COVID died from. The same tactics they used against Donald Trump to say he was killing people, the same tactics they used against DeSantis. Trump goes 2 years of being on my side of this to flipping and saying, oh, no, you know what? DeSantis actually did do not that good of a job. DeSantis actually did kill more people than Cuomo. And it's like, so you're going with those stats, the same stats they used against you, the same stats that they cooked to make you look bad. So this is the pattern of Donald Trump, is that he'll do and say whatever he has to do to disagree with DeSantis to try to make him look bad. So with the pro-life thing, I don't think that Trump, and I'm not saying he's dumb, but I don't think that Trump thinks that much about what the truth is anymore, which is why I don't really like him that much. It's like, does he believe that a heartbeat is a life in the womb? I'm not really sure what he believes, and I'm not sure that he's even sure what he believes, because in his head, it's like, I'm fighting DeSantis, so I just do the opposite of whatever DeSantis does. Like, if DeSantis hits me from the right, I move to the left. If DeSantis does something conservative, I'm going to take the liberal stance. If DeSantis passes a heartbeat bill that I agreed with 8 months ago, I'm going to take the Democrat stance and say it's a bad idea because I don't like DeSantis and DeSantis is my enemy. Like, that's kind of the vibe that I get, and just the pattern recognition that I get from listening to Trump talk over the last year, which I understand that it's working, and like the victim narrative of him getting arrested is making a lot of people want to vote for him. I understand that. But to me, like, I'm only one vote. My vote doesn't really matter because I live in California. So it's like pointless. But that doesn't get my vote. Like, him pathologically lying about every topic to try to like please the other side, that's not how that never made me like Trump. I never liked Trump because he was a politician. I never liked Trump because he was trying to please the left. I never liked Trump because he was just saying what he had to say to stay up. Like, that wasn't what drew me to Trump. It was the truth at all costs. Like, I'm going to tell the truth and I don't care what the consequences are. I'm like, I like that guy. Trump's the real deal. Trump is a savage. He doesn't care. He's just telling the truth. Now he's like, let me just take left-wing stances to talk about DeSantis. I'm going to take a Cuomo stance on COVID. I'm going to take a left-wing stance on abortion. I don't really have any line. The line's here, but now the line's here. You should go with your heart, but I'm going to say I'm not going with my heart to please the left, even though every time I try to please the left, they don't like me anyway. So I'm just basically caving and compromising. I'll say my vaccine saved 100 million lives. Nobody believes that, but nobody's going to call me out on it. And I'm just like, it doesn't work for me personally. Like, that's not a way to get my vote. So that's kind of my analysis. Is Trump says whatever he has to say to try to make DeSantis look bad. And this is just my view. I think it's a very childish thing to do. Like, if I say something and Cuomo says something or DeSantis says something, if they say the same thing as me because it's true, I'm not going to change my stance just to play opposite day. Like, the left does that with Trump all the time. It's like, well, if Trump says this, I'm going to do the opposite. And it's really bizarre to be a fully grown adult and just do the opposite of what a man says because you don't like him. Like, if they say water's good, you're like, water's good. Oh, Trump said that? Wait, no, and now I don't like water. It's like that type of like nah, poo-poo. Like, that's just like a weird thing to do. And I never liked when the left did that. It's like, can you give this guy credit? He's out there. Like, I liked when he met with Kim Jong-un. I liked at the time. I mean, now I have a different view on it because I'm more conservative and I realized that it wasn't what it was cracked up to be. But at the time, left wingers always wanted prison reform. And when Trump did prison reform, it's like, can you give the guy credit? If you were a prison reform activist for 10 years and Trump does prison reform before the left does it, you got to give him credit. It's not about the guy. It's about the principle. Like, if he did it and you wanted it, you can't pretend like you don't want it now. And that's what the left did. And it annoyed the crap out of me for 4 years. Now Trump does the same thing with DeSantis. He just plays opposite day. I was with you on COVID. Now I'm going to say the opposite. I thought you did a good job. Now I think you killed more people than Cuomo. Yeah, I'm a pro-life guy, but now I'm a pro-choice guy because that's a bad thing that you did a heartbeat bill. It didn't stop. It's not stopping him from winning. It didn't stop Governor Kemp from winning. So, if you can push conservative policies and win an election by 10 points, that's better than turning into a liberal to try to please MSNBC and losing an election. Like it's like we're caving and not even gaining anything. And this is my analysis, and it's been my analysis for years. And this will probably piss off both sides of the Trump DeSantis thing, but it's how I truly feel. So many people in the DeSantis camp, they keep saying, "Oh, Anomaly, why don't you support DeSantis then? Why don't you, if you're going to, talk about Trump, then you got to like DeSantis." And I'm like, listen, I'll tell people who I would vote for if the election was tomorrow, but I don't trust DeSantis. I agree with a lot of the criticisms of Trump people about DeSantis. I do think he takes donor money, and I think Trump also takes donor money. And when you take a bunch of money, you usually do things for the money. I've seen certain laws and certain bills that DeSantis has passed that I believe is a slippery slope to infringing on the First Amendment. I've always stood against it since 2019. When Trump people were licking DeSantis's boots, I was criticizing him. And I'm not even going to say criticizing because I'm not a critic. I was an American citizen who disagreed with what he passed because I believe in the First Amendment. So I'm not a DeSantis shill. I want people to be skeptical. I don't think people should trust him. But when I take all that information, I take the information from Trump and DeSantis, to me, the things that I dislike about DeSantis, also Trump does almost all of those things. I would say the only thing that I think that Trump is more trustworthy on would maybe be like the Ukraine war policy. I feel like DeSantis will be a little flippy on that. And if that's your reason for voting, I mean, it's a valid concern. If you prioritize it and you want to vote for Trump over DeSantis for that reason, like that, I'm not sure really where DeSantis stands. With that being said, all of the things that DeSantis does bad and corrupt that I don't like, Trump does the same things. But if you look at actual policy, this is just my analysis. DeSantis is a true conservative with conviction, and Trump is like a chameleon comedian. Like it's like DeSantis has led the charge on the children in school things. DeSantis actually gets stuff done. Like he said in that thing, Trump printed trillions of dollars and ran the deficit up. He's doing a better job in Florida. He's changed Florida more conservative. Like, where has Trump been when all of the, and I'm not saying that he could pass legislation right now, but he is the leader of the Republican Party, right? When they're doing LGBTQ stuff to the children and they're pushing sexuality and sex books on like 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, who's been leading the charge? Of course, like Matt Walsh, maybe on YouTube and on podcasting, but it's really been DeSantis in the Republican Party. You barely hear Trump talk about that topic when it affects millions of parents and mothers. Why? Because Trump doesn't give a shit. If it doesn't revolve around him and his ego and who he is and his election and his vaccine that saved the world and saved the planet, he doesn't care. So it's like, DeSantis has led the charge on that topic. Trump's virtually nowhere to be found. He'll talk about it once or twice a year. When it comes to the COVID stuff, DeSantis turned the corner after 2 months. And even on the vaccine, it's like everything he did wrong, he eventually made it right. Hired the right people, kicked out the big pharma people, hired an outside doctor. Trump was with the big pharma swamp the entire time. So if I broke down every single policy, it's like DeSantis is more conservative. He's a better governor. He gets stuff done. And here's how I don't care if people agree, but it's like, do you think this is an interesting like psychology test to figure out if you think that Trump could get as much done as DeSantis? If Trump was the governor of Florida, do you think he would have done as good of a job or a worse job? I think he would have done a worse. I don't think Trump has the ability to lead and hire and use executive power like DeSantis has. I think if they flip places and Trump was the governor of Florida, I don't think he would have gotten 50% of the stuff done that DeSantis got done. So it's like, that's my analysis of the two. All the things I don't like about DeSantis that are sneaky, that are compromised, etc. Trump is like 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10, the same exact stuff. It's just when he does it, people don't want to see it. And then they just point out when DeSantis does. I see that DeSantis does it. I'm not making excuses for it. It's just like my analysis is DeSantis is more conservative on the kids in school stuff. Trump doesn't care. DeSantis has come around on the vaccine stuff. Trump doesn't care. DeSantis talks about how the CARES Act imploded the economy. Trump did it. Tim Scott's proud of it. It's like, to me, DeSantis is a real conservative and Trump is just like a magician. So if the election were tomorrow, I'd probably vote for DeSantis. But the sad part is both of these people would probably throw me under the bus in 2 seconds. The big I would say media smears and basically what is blacklisted me from Republican media for like 4 years. You would see a lot more of me if it weren't for my disagreements to this topic. I'm just being honest. Is I fortunately or unfortunately, I would say fortunately because I'm not a fake person, but I noticed that Republicans were passing anti-Semitism speech laws in 2019. And that's why you don't see me on the news that much. And that's why you don't see me speaking at events. And I know this for a fact. I'm not complaining. I don't care. I don't feel like a victim. Life is good. God is great. Everything comes at a cost. But the whole reason that I'm not able to do a lot of stuff and I'm not crying about it. I'm just telling you the truth. I know people got to understand I have friends at every media company. Everywhere I go, people recognize me. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, they tell me what people are saying behind closed doors. They're like, Anomaly, they're calling you anti-Semitic. Anomaly, they're saying you're far right. They're saying this. They've been doing it since 2019 in Republican media. I say, why? What did I do? And they're like, well, because you tweeted this. And I look at the tweet and it's like, I'm just talking that Trump and DeSantis, they're passing, and I'll explain it now just to be clear. They both passed legislation, Trump through executive order and DeSantis through bill. That was an anti-Semitism bill, right? I disagree with hate. I disagree with violence. I'm against that. I think Israel has the right to exist and say what it wants to say. And people will cry when I said that. And they're like, oh, what the hell? Why would you say that? I'm not a Zionist per se. It's just like, I don't decide if Israel or Palestine gets the land. I'm not that important. I could say, oh, it's my opinion doesn't really matter. If they want to exist and fight, it's like they can do that. But as an American citizen, I'm just being honest. My priority is the United States of America, not Italy, not Israel, not Canada. It doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean I want to hurt them. It just means I'm an American citizen and I like my First Amendment. With that being said, I've read these laws. It doesn't mean I agree with all of them. It doesn't mean I want to say all of them, but Trump and DeSantis passed through this new definition, and just tweeting this definition to try to show people and warn people that it's happening has got some of the most vicious media smears I've ever gotten from Republican media just for simply explaining this to people. And I said, look at the State Department rules. They're going off a 2016 definition. They created a new definition of anti-Semitism. It's not what you think it is. And it's the reason they called DeSantis anti-Semitic, even though he's not. It's the reason they call Ted Cruz anti-Semitic, even though he's not. It's the reason that just this week they're calling Donald Trump anti-Semitic when he's not. Donald Trump tweeted something about liberal Jewish people, and the media freaked out at him and said that's anti-Semitic. Is Trump anti-Semitic? I don't think so. I think he's the opposite. But the reason that I don't feel bad for him is because he passed through legislation that took the definition of anti-Semitism, made it massive. So now technically what Trump said, according to the rules and laws that he himself passed, it technically is anti-Semitic according to those rules because it expanded the definition and made it astronomical, where you can't criticize Israel more than other nations. You can't, compare them to this. You can't talk about this. And it doesn't matter if you're religious or ethnically that. And it doesn't matter if you're talking about individuals and not the entire group. They're still going to use it. So long story short, Trump and DeSantis passed that through legislation. I don't want anyone to hurt anybody. I don't want anyone to even hate anybody. You're not a victim. I don't think that anger and being jealous or envious or whatever is the right way to live. I'm against all that stuff. But I do believe in the First Amendment. And I do think that once you pass through hate speech rules and laws, that it does the opposite of what it's intended to do. It doesn't work. It's a complete constitutional violation. And it's going to be this slippery slope that goes further, further, further. And then the next thing you know, people like Trump and DeSantis, who do everything for Israel, they're still going to get called anti-Semitic under the laws and the rules that they themselves pass. So long story short, I disagreed with this in 2019. I figured it out. I just saw it. I started talking about it. That's why I'm pretty much blacklisted for right-wing media. That's why they're trying to drag me through the mud and smear my name. That's why they're trying to exaggerate about what I said. And to be honest, this is why I don't trust the Republican Party at all. And I could talk about other topics too. It's like Republicans run under this guise that they're going to cut the deficit and they're libertarians on spending and the Democrats spend too much. Look at how much money Donald Trump spent. And you could say, oh, well, it was an emergency. There's always an emergency. Oh, well, it was COVID. There's always something, whether it's a war, whether it's this, whether it's that. You, and I'm not saying you specifically, but people interpret it as, oh, Trump just made a mistake. He just got fooled, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I interpreted it as it's been the same for 40 years because they just put an actor like Ronald Reagan or an actor like Barack Obama or whoever just to please the masses. Like, oh, they need a leftist? Here, give them a leftist. Oh, they need an outsider? Give them an outsider. And once I figured this stuff out, there's less and less opportunities for me, and I don't care. It is annoying when they try to smear my name. All I could do is correct myself. I'm not what the media says I am. I'm not anti-vaxxer. I'm not conspiracy theory. I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm not any of these things. It's just I tell the truth about topics they don't want to tell. I never told people that I'm against all medical products. I just told them the truth that Big Pharma is going to make a cash cow on this product because Trump hired a pharmacy lobbyist to run HHS who declared an emergency. And with that emergency, there's the PrEP Act that George Bush signed through that says that under an emergency, they don't have liability for experimental products. They have no liability for side effects, injuries, and deaths. So here's the problem, which Republicans don't understand, is they go, well, he's just giving the people what they want. Well, if you're a libertarian or a Republican or a conservative, you're supposed to believe in free market Thomas Sowell principles, right? That's what everyone talks. It's not free market. The entire Operation Warp Speed was a socialist scheme. First of all, they used a pharmacy lobbyist that Trump put in power to declare an emergency. Then they got emergency funding. Then they got $18 billion from the government. That's not free market capitalism. They didn't, but it's an emergency. Well, then there's going to be more and more emergencies if emergency gives them a power. Just look at the governor of New Mexico who's trying to say an emergency gives her the power to suspend the Second Amendment. So you don't want to give up your constitutional rights over an emergency, because then you'll notice that there's going to be an emergency all the time, every year, whenever they need it. Long story short, you move forward. After Trump gave Big Pharma $18 billion, then he bought 100 million doses. Then Biden got in. He bought 100 million doses. They're not free. They never were free. The point that I'm saying this is Republicans are controlled opposition on almost every topic. And I've come to this conclusion the more I figured out. When it comes to the First Amendment, they don't actually believe in it. And when you figure out that they don't believe in it, they try to say you hate a whole group of people when you don't. I don't hate anybody. I just believe in the First Amendment, and they're infringing on it. The Second Amendment, Republicans, I believe, under Trump, infringed on it more than Obama did. Obama talked about it, but didn't do anything and probably couldn't do anything. Trump did his little bump stock ban. I don't care. I mean, some people do care more than me, but it's like, look at every topic and what are they doing? They say that they're going to cut the deficit. They run up the deficit. They say that they didn't do anything with Big Pharma. It's just the left, but they gave them all the money. And what ticks me off is when I see Pfizer or Moderna sponsored, the whole television sponsored by Pfizer, sponsored by Moderna, every sporting event. It's not free market. They didn't make their money in a free market and then run ads. It's already been corrupted. They were given tens of billions of dollars, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in profit, all through a government socialist scheme where the government is even arguing that they own part of the patents. Operation Warp Speed is one of the most, if not the most corrupt scandals in pharmaceutical history. And even without the mandates, with the mandates, it just makes it insane and demonic. But even without the mandates, it's still all corrupt. Fentanyl is not mandated, but there's a scandal. Opioids weren't mandated, but there's a scandal. Operation Warp Speed is a scandal. But long story short, it's like every topic that I look on, the more I realize it's like none of these politicians are coming to save me because they're almost all in on it. So, once I figured that out in 2019, 2020, et cetera, the world that I can exist in as far as like right-wing media, it's like they don't want me because they want people that just get you riled up, that makes you think it's just the left. Because if you're mad at the left and the left's mad at you, there's certain industries and certain people that don't give a crap. They don't care if Antifa and Proud Boys are fighting in the streets. They don't care if you're tweeting. They don't care if you vote harder. It's like they don't, it doesn't matter to certain people when you win the election in 2016, but there's still a lockdown in 2020. And then the Republican Party is telling its base that Sweden should have locked down. Sweden out-freedomed America in 2020. And the Republican president that's an outsider against the globalists was telling Sweden that they should have locked down, and America made the right decision by locking down. If that doesn't set up a red flag in your head, you're no better than a liberal. You're the other side of the coin, and you're like the goofy side of like the let's fight each other and act like we're beating up Joe Biden or Hunter Biden's laptop, and you're not doing anything. So it's like it's not a black pill by any means, but the long story short is I realized that whether I vote for Trump, RFK, Biden, or whoever, which I would never vote for Biden, but I'm just saying, like, what is it? RFK, Trump, DeSantis, like none of these people give a crap about me. And if I ever talk about my First Amendment principles, they're all going to call me an anti-Semite. They're all going to lie about what I said. They're all going to exaggerate. They're all going to say that I hate people when I don't. And Trump and DeSantis certainly aren't going to save me because they're the ones passing the legislation. So I've come to that conclusion, just like everybody votes for what they want to vote for. It's like, well, he'll lower gas for me. And it's like, sure, I get it, but that's my personal analysis is none of these people are really going to save me. And the right-wing media is going to smear me just as much as the left wing, not because I hate people, because I don't, not because I want to hurt people, because I obviously don't, none of that stuff, just because I know that the controlled opposition Republican Party are passing speech legislation to basically usher in the new era of all the stuff that's affecting everyone. Trump's getting affected by it. Elon Musk's getting affected by it. It's just one way for them to call things hate speech. And there was a resolution, just to tell you how compromised Congress is, there was a resolution that was an anti-Semitism resolution that had all these speech laws and speech rules, and we're trying to condemn hate speech, etc. Every single congressman in America voted yes on it, except for one. It was 420, I think, to 1. Do you know who the one who didn't vote for it was? Thomas Massey. Read his explanation for it. He's like, this is a slippery slope to infringing on the First Amendment. They're basically trying to create these hate speech laws and rules. And I'm not saying I want people to be hateful, but what is hate speech? The truth sounds like hate speech to people who hate the truth. They would call it hate. It's hate speech if you don't want to get the vaccine. It's hate speech if you don't want your kids to get it. It's hate speech. It's hate speech. Oh, you're going to hurt people. They do this with every topic. Every single topic they've exaggerated, and everything's racist, everything's sexist, everything's xenophobic. So there's only one congressman who voted against it. One. So once you figure that out, it's not the game that cat turd's trying to brainwash you into, where you're like beating up Hunter Biden's laptop in a boxing gym with Floyd Mayweather. Like, that's all fake. It's all kabuki theater. It's all controlled opposition. It's all the other side of the coin. And I'm not saying he even knows what he's doing, because he probably doesn't. He's probably a great guy. It's just that's what's really going on. So really, I don't really care if Trump or DeSantis wins, because I don't really think they're going to do anything. I just think they're going to pretend to. But with my vote, as much as I just said about them, I would vote for DeSantis if it were tomorrow, because I can actually see things that he actually does. Like, he does push legislation for kids in schools. He did hire an outsider to take on big pharma. You know, he did turn the corner quicker. He does seem like he has a stance on the heartbeat bill that more matches mine. And Trump, it's like, I don't think he's really an effective leader. I think he's an effective talker. He's an effective divider. He makes the left go crazy and the right go crazy. The right loves him. The left hates him. The right doesn't want to hold him accountable. The left wants to blame him for everything. I don't see how he's a threat to the establishment. I just don't. I mean, maybe if he can stop the war in Ukraine, I mean, that would be a massive accomplishment. And hopefully he does. My vote doesn't really matter. But with all that being said, the reason I would vote for DeSantis if the election were tomorrow is not because I like him. It's not because I trust him. I could make a chart of the things I like and dislike about both of them. And the things I dislike about DeSantis, 9 out of 10 of them, Trump also does. It's just people who like Trump try to pretend like he doesn't also do it. Like, he's so outside when he's not. And all the things that I do care about, I've come to the conclusion that as a CEO or as like a quarterback, DeSantis knows how to use his power and get stuff done. And Trump just doesn't actually have conviction or principles on most topics. He's just kind of out there trying to stay afloat for his own self. Like, what's his abortion stance? Are you pro-choice? Are you pro-life? Whatever. Just tell me what you are. Do you believe in the heartbeat bill, or you don't? I don't think any of that stuff really matters to him. It's like he doesn't talk about during COVID. If you want to look at somebody's character, who were you from 2021 to 2022 when all this stuff was happening? Trump barely talked about all this stuff. It was like, my vaccine saved the world. I'm so great. People wouldn't even have to get a mandate because they would have got the shots with my shots. They're my shots. My shots are awesome. And they're like, what about mandates? And it's like he'd ignore the question and be like, freedom or whatever, but let me just go on a 5-minute. Like, there was no conviction. Like, he could have been like, millions of nurses are being terrorized. Like, DeSantis is like, this is insane. I'm going to use all my power to stop this. And Trump didn't give a crap about it. Like, he didn't give a crap about it. He still doesn't give a crap about it. The character is just not there for me. So I could look at all the bad things about DeSantis and Trump and be like, listen, nobody's perfect. I don't trust them. I don't think they're going to save us. I don't think DeSantis is going to save the world. I don't think Trump's going to save the world. With that being said, I just think that DeSantis gets more done and knows how to wield power and actually hire. And like, if you listen to him talk, and I'm not telling you to trust him because you probably shouldn't, but I've heard him and Trump talk, and it's like Trump, it's like a show. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's very entertaining, but it's all just like theater. When DeSantis talks, I'm not saying it's like the greatest thing ever, but you can listen. Like, I'm an analytical person. I'm a business person. It's like DeSantis is like, this is how to get stuff done. I figured out how to do it. I hired the right people. I brought a team together to figure out exactly what we can and can't do and how exactly to do it. Like, he sounds like an analytical person who knows how to use the full power that he gets. And when Trump got in office, he didn't figure that out, or and it's okay, but it's like, that's just my opinion as a voter. With that being said, I want to get to the last story. So I'm just going to show you guys. YouTube has suspended monetization on Russell Brand's channel for violating its creator responsibility, says British Broadcasting Corporation. I don't know, Channel Corporation. I don't know. I don't want to fully talk about the Russell Brand accusations right now because I didn't really read into them, and I would sound ignorant just like straight up defending him if I don't even know what it's about. So I'm not saying I'm throwing the guy under the bus. It's just in order to have like an actual opinion about the accusations, I want to research it. With that being said, my instinct tells me that I don't believe it, but I'm not saying it's not real. That's what my instinct is telling me. With that being said, I do want to talk about this angle of it. It says YouTube has suspended monetization on his channel for violating its creator responsibility policy. Okay. As of now, their accusations, I think they made some sort of documentary. I don't even believe that they're charging him or trying to charge him. It's basically like running to the media, as far as I know. I don't know what's going to happen, but there are people who have murdered people who are on YouTube and make money. There are rappers who have admitted to drugging and robbing men for money. They're on YouTube. I'm sure there's thousands of actual rapists who've been convicted in a court, not by the media, not by, British news, but by the court, that are on YouTube. And I don't believe that they've violated the creator responsibility policy. So it's like, where's YouTube going to draw the line on that? If someone went to jail for 20 years, right? They served a sentence for something even worse than what they're accusing Russell Brand of, and they get out of jail. Are they going to get on YouTube and be like, you can never make money here because you were convicted in court? So the point that I'm trying to make is YouTube is just using this, whether you like Russell Brand or not, whether you think he did it or not. I think that they are basically just trying to weaponize this for a political reason and silence and shut down anyone who, doesn't say exactly what they want to say. I believe that there are people that have been convicted for crazier crimes. And I mean, I'm not saying what they're accusing him is not crazy, but they don't police everything the same way. So if you look at the way they're vaguely saying it, that he's violating their creator responsibility policy. So because there's accusations that aren't even in court yet, he hasn't even been found guilty by a court, he's violating creator responsibility. But people who have been held accountable for what they're accusing him of and more in court, and they've been convicted and they're guilty in court, are they being suspended by creator responsibility policy? How far are they going to go with this? But the truth is, I don't think they're doing that. Like, they're not. If you were convicted of a crime that was bad, I don't think YouTube's going through every account and saying, oh, you were a criminal, you've done crime in your life, like you were convicted of this and now you're out of jail and you're making YouTube videos, we're going to make it impossible for you to ever make money on here. They're not doing that. They're certainly not doing that. There's people who've been convicted of crazy stuff. They're, I'm sure, monetized. So where does that go when YouTube thinks it's their responsibility to cut off your money because of an accusation in the press that hasn't even gone to court yet? It's the president of this is the interesting part to me. Obviously the story is too, but I just want to talk about the president now. And, I'm sure they're going to abuse it like they do with everything. I mean, I made a video in 2020 where they said, you can't disagree with the CDC. You can't disagree with the World Health Organization. These are the rules on social media, right? So I held up a paper and I said, here's what the World Health Organization is saying. Here's what the CDC is saying. At the time, they didn't even agree with each other. And of course, I got punished for my genius point, but I was like, how can you agree with both of these health agencies that don't even agree with each other? But that's the rule on social media. It's like, if you disagree with the CDC, we're going to censor you. If you disagree with the World Health Organization, we're going to censor you. What if they disagree with each other? Then you're screwed because you're going to disagree with one of them if you take the other one's stance, but they don't actually care about that. They never really cared about what the World Health Organization or the CDC said. It was all about agenda and narrative. And if the World Health Organization or the CDC ever made a mistake, they're not punished for their mistakes. They're rewarded for them. when Joe Biden, Rochelle Walensky, and Rachel Maddow exaggerated and straight up misled the entire public on a vaccine into wanting to get it when they had no liability for the side effects, and then all of their efficacy claims weren't true, they don't get punished for being wrong because they're wrong in favor of the government. They're wrong in favor of big pharma. They're wrong in favor of vaccine mandates. So being wrong in the corporate world is okay as long as you're wrong in that direction. So, I'm going to look more into this stuff because, to be honest, I don't really watch Russell Brand that much. I've never hated him. I've never watched all this stuff, but I've seen some stuff. It seems like he's a celebrity who, to be fair too, I don't think this is going to hurt his life that much. I mean, the accusations will, but the suspending monetization on YouTube is not going to hurt him. He's got money. He's got other sponsorships, so he'll be fine from that. It's more just the president. And also, I think with Russell Brand, he is a, comedian or actor. I don't know exactly what he did, but he decided to come out and talk against big pharma. He decided to come out and talk against, like the World Economic Forum and global groups that, from a progressive perspective. And I would say, I can't tell you what happened and I'll wait and look at information, but I think that Russell Brand hits an audience that most people can't hit because he's not really a conservative. He's not a Republican, and he's kind of like a liberal, but he's a common sense progressive who understands certain points that most people don't, talk about on the left. So I feel like he was extremely effective in at least being a building block for people to wake up on certain categories. And, from what I don't want to fully speak on the accusations until I look into them, but from what I've seen, Megyn Kelly seems to think that they're legitimate. She's basically saying you didn't look at them. Other people tweeting about them are saying that they're very loose and vague and they don't believe them. But I'm not going to weigh in on that until I really, really read it, because I like to be educated and not just going off of instinct. My instinct tells me that I don't believe it, but the creator responsibility policy on YouTube, now YouTube is basically the police of, can you even ever make money? Not because now they're going even further than your video violated this thing. It's like, technically nothing in your video violated this, but your existence violates our policy because you're this type of person. And that's one of those things too. It's like, if someone actually goes to prison for murder for 20 years, I mean, it's an insane thing. But like, when they come out into the world, are they now not able, like, what if every company did this? Well, your existence, I would say violates our creator policy. So you can't work here. You can't ever have a job. You can't make income. It's like, is that YouTube's responsibility? They're clearly taking that, but I would guess that there are high-level convicts, terrible music artists that talk about murder, that talk about rape. They literally rap about killing people, and that's totally monetizable, right? Even if you have a criminal background. But this guy, that's where we draw the line. And I've seen how they create their policy and how they weaponize it. It's like they don't do it across the line. And, I don't know if it's to protect advertisers or what they claim it's doing, but it's a very interesting new kind of policy / term that they're coming up with. And that's just what I'm looking at this point. It's like, how is that going to set the precedent for the next 5 or 6 years on YouTube? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. I see a lot of people saying they don't like Russell Brand in my comments, saying he's controlled opposition. Some people like him. I mean, to me right now, it's probably not about his content as much as like the story, but everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm going to read a few comments and then I'll probably take off. I might stay a little bit. I did a half an interview with Chad Jackson, the guy that was on my last stream, and I'm going to post it on Patreon tonight or early tomorrow. So we conducted it. I just got to get it and put it up for the Patreon supporters. Thank you. Facebook supporters. Thank you. Twitter supporters. Appreciate you guys. I have a new piece of content that it's probably like my best one yet. So thanks for the patience. I appreciate it. Let me see. They're never going to be fresh out of bad politicians. Yeah. I mean, until people talk about something or you guys give me a topic or respond to stuff, I would say with certain accusations, like, what do you think about a time limit? I don't know if this would solve the issue, but it's one of those things where it's like, if you are physically raped, right? If a man physically rapes you and you're just like, I don't want this, don't do this to me, and they're just straight raping you, that's an evil, horrible, insane thing. And you should go directly to law enforcement because rape is insane. Like literally raping someone is terrible. But if you don't talk about it for 15, 20 years, and then you come out to the press and don't even file a charge, you just come out to the media about it when somebody gets known politically, at what point, like, there's people who have lied about it and they don't get charged. But if a man gets charged under that, he could go to jail for the rest of his life. So it's one of those things where it's like, I understand that people are bad out there, but the media is also trying to skew what it means to be raped. Like rape means you got raped. It doesn't mean you had a bad date and you did something and then you realize 3 weeks later that you didn't want to do it. Like that's not rape, because that goes both ways, men and women. I remember a story that there was a girl in college, I think it was at my college at the time, that she said she got raped. And then people familiar with the story, after the guy got kicked out of school, they found out that she had a boyfriend and she just consensually cheated on her boyfriend, but she got caught. So then she had, two ways to go. It's either like, I got to admit that I just got drunk and did something that I shouldn't have done, or I'll just blame it on the guy and then I'll take no accountability. And it's like they found out later that she had straight up lied about it. And it was just like she was trying to save her relationship with the guy that she cheated on consensually. And it's like, it's really dark out there. So I think actual rape is horrible. But, when it comes to accusations 10, 15 years later, it's harder and harder to believe, because it's like, if you got raped, like you got to go to law enforcement. You got to show it, prove it, and like explain it and, get help. Not like wait 12 years until you disagree with somebody's politics and then be like, oh yeah, I had a bad experience with him. There's a lot of bad experiences in relationships. There's a lot of people that like each other, then hate each other. It's like, I've seen women that will be with a guy for years and they'll be like, oh, my boyfriend's amazing. Oh my gosh, he's the best. Oh my gosh, I love him. Oh my gosh. And then they break up. And in a week, they're telling all the gym friends, oh, he has a small, he's a terrible guy. He's a piece of garbage. It's like, you weren't saying that for the year you consensually dated him. And the second you break up, all of a sudden he goes from the greatest guy on earth to a devil. It's like, maybe he's bad, maybe he's good, but like people can be very, people can be very petty. And I would say this, and I'm not a perfect person. I don't think anybody is. And some people learn later in their life, like we're sold sex culture at a young age. Like I was told in my 20s, my teens, like it's cool to drink, it's cool to smoke, it's cool to do this, it's cool. Like that's what we're told, that it's cool to have casual sex. That's what the media is telling us, that they're acting like Christianity and religion is bad. But like, this is also why it makes sense to get married and stuff. Like I would love to have a wife. I don't want to date people now. I don't want to talk to people. If it's going great, I'm amazing. If they don't like me or they don't like my politics, they could lie about me in 3 seconds and I have no say. So it's like, this is why marriage and traditional relationships make even more sense in this day and age, where it's like, once you have one person that you trust and it's mutual and you love each other, then you don't have to deal with all this other nonsense that comes with, being single, trying to find a partner. Cause it's like in many ways, it's a great time because you have technology and you're able to talk and communicate all over the world. In many ways, it's the worst time because there's no like nuance to a situation. And, being a single man is a little rough when they're pushing extreme feminism and extreme, I would say, like anti-man rhetoric, where it's like, all right, well, what do I do in this situation? This is not easy. I'm going to read who's a better candidate than Trump. Well, you could rewind and see what I said. But one thing I want to talk about, I don't know if it's fully appropriate, but it is in the situation. So I'm just going to say it. Like with certain situations, women don't like pansies. So as a man, you're in a weird situation a lot of times because like women don't like weak beta males. Like they can pretend like they do, but most don't. They don't like guys that aren't assertive. So it's like, say on a dance floor, if you're out, right? Who's the guy that dances with all the chicks? It's the guy who tries to. You know what I'm saying? It's the guy who tries. The guy who's afraid of making a move because he doesn't want to seem like the guy. He's not the guy that dances with all the chicks. The guy that does is the guy that wants to and tries to. And sometimes you get rejected. Sometimes you try to dance with someone, they say, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to dance with you. And it's like, but you shoot your shot. And the people that are hesitant don't get women. That's just how the world works. With that being said, it's like, as a man, if you're not trying to get falsely accused of stuff, it's a very difficult world to live in because, of course, biologically and literally, women like assertiveness, confidence, etc. But the media acts like all those things are literally rape sometimes. And even if they're like, like Aziz Ansari went on a bad date and a chick, did stuff with him, and now he's a bad guy. And it's like, maybe you don't take Aziz Ansari seriously because he's a comedian, but he's also a man looking for a woman also, so like you might just think he's a joke or a meme, but he's a real person. So it's like, if you don't want to do stuff with him, you don't have to, but don't do it. And then be like, oh, it's like, was it really that? Or are you just like embarrassed? Or, I don't really know. But long story short, it's like there's some women that they want to have sex. And if you don't, they get mad at you. There's women that like it rough. And if you're not aggressive or assertive enough, they think you're gross. They think you're not cool. And it's like that, when that's the world out there for a guy, it's like, well, if I sit here and just do nothing, I'll never get a date. It's like, if I'm too soft, she'll think I'm pathetic. And then it's like, but of course, if you always, I would say as a wise man, you revert to just playing it cooler, because it's like, you definitely don't want to like do too much and have someone hate you for it. But it's like, there will be chicks who are like, oh, you're not assertive enough. You didn't go for it. It's like, well, I didn't want to go for it, because if I went for it and you didn't like it, you could accuse me and ruin the next 50 years of my life. So it's like, it's a little bit of a debacle most men are in. It's like, luckily, it's navigatable, just like, but it's like the worst time to be like, all right, well, this person liked me, and then they found out I voted Republican. Now they might try to ruin my life over like a date where we just kissed. It's like, it's a creepy world to be a part of. Getting a wife and having a partner is there's a lot of pros to it, obviously. Let me see real quick. Someone said, I wish my son listened to Anomaly and not Russell Brand. He's taken the wrong path. Well, thank you, Carol Ann. I appreciate that. But, I've heard some of Russell Brand's videos. I mean, to me, he always made sense from what I've seen, but I can't say I like listen to all of them. But when my friend showed me, he's like, yo, check out this video, I was like, I thought it was good, but I can't say, I don't know what all he's talking about. I would assume that it's pretty compelling, though, if he's got millions of followers, a Rumble deal, a lot of people tuning in. Someone said nothing can destroy a man's life more quickly and completely than a female. It's true, but I also like, I don't blame, like, as far as I know, like every woman I've ever met, obviously I'm not on like great terms with everyone, but like, I don't see myself as a victim. I don't hate women. I don't blame women for what some do. Like, I have a good relationship with people, but yeah, it's like, not all women will ruin your life. A great woman will make your life better, and the wrong woman could ruin your life, but also the wrong man could ruin a woman's life. I think it goes both ways. But yeah, as a man, it's definitely good to be smart. But here's another angle of life where, like, I'm not complaining because I'm very grateful, but things could get rough sometimes, because it's one of those things where, like, when you're being overly like paranoid about everything, it's like nothing's fun anymore. It's like going to a sporting event and like you look at old events and everybody's watching, everybody's in the moment, everybody's right there, like they're watching Jordan shoot a free, like, or whatever, the winning shot, and their cell phones don't even exist. So they're not thinking about, oh, let me take a picture, let me do this. They're in the moment. They're just like enjoying life. Nothing's in the moment anymore, because like everyone's got pictures, everyone's taking a selfie, they want to take a picture of you, they want to take a picture of this, let's take a picture of that, let's do this, hey, here's my thing, you're being recorded, everything's recording everyone all the time. Isn't this fun, guys? And it's like, it's not even like I'm paranoid of what I'm saying, it's just like nothing feels natural anymore. Everything feels so forced and fake, and you know what I'm saying, like it's just like so technological. It's like it's just like exhausting sometimes. It's like, can we just like go somewhere and just exist for 10 minutes without pulling out a cell phone, or having some sort of digital fake moment that no one even likes, just to pretend like we do for Instagram? It's a wild world, but there's a lot of pros to it, and I'm grateful. But it is like, the more I do stuff, I'm like, I love what I do, I'm grateful, I'm appreciative, but watching how things are unfolding, it's like, it's crazy. The media is insane, politics is insane, the technological age is wild. It's like, man, the perks of just finding your zone and being able to like tap out of all this stuff is becoming more and more appealing. Someone said, I think they're Brett Kavanaughing him. I mean, it seems that way. And here's another thing too, where it's like, there are bad men out there, but at the same time, it's easy to, especially if you're famous or successful, or you're single for too long, it's not hard to find multiple women who don't like you. You know what I'm saying? But also, this is what sucks about it, because it's like there are terrible people. Like, I've heard stories from certain women where I'm like, geez, like there are shitty guys out there. But when the evidence is, and I'm not saying on this case because I haven't looked into it, but like when the evidence is super weak and it's like they waited so long, it's like, is this about actual rape, or is this about politics? Do you just not like him now? And now, how many women love a guy, but then something happens, then they hate the same guy they liked like a week ago, and vice versa. It's like that happens all the time. And it's not even like they're claiming rape, but it's like, oh, my boyfriend's amazing, he's so great, he's so this, and then there's, oh, he ain't shit, he's a piece of garbage, he's horrible. You know what I'm saying? He never was cool. It's like you literally said the opposite a week ago. Because when you love someone and then you can't get it, sometimes you become very scornful. Where it's definitely like a hard thing to balance here. Let me see. Someone said, Anomaly, take a deep dive into Russell Brand, particularly his photos and company he keeps, including Klaus Schwab's advisor. Yeah, as far as like him as an entity and as a media source, I guess I don't really watch him, but also I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong with this because like media is impactful. I don't think I don't think he's that big of like a media thing where it's like, like what is he specifically doing that's in media that's so bad? Or like, is he telling people like, don't watch any other person, like just listen to me? Where I don't know. I have no idea who he is or what he, like most of what he talks about, but like someone like that, it's like, you don't have to listen to him. You don't have to watch his channel. You don't have to, like, he's not running for office or something where he's like changing legislation. He's just talking. I'm not saying he's not, but I don't know. It's like, what does he say that's like so controlled oppy to people that it's like, yo, you got to watch out for him. I'm like, I don't listen to him, so I don't really know. But from what I've heard, it seems like fine. It's just like he's saying some things and some things he's not saying. But I just look at him like, if you want to listen to him, cool. If not, there's other people out there. There's other information. If it's not the full piece of the puzzle, then there's other places to get it. Someone said your life could be worse. You could be a Jets fan. My sympathy's with you. Yeah, dude, the Aaron Rodgers injury is brutal. Jets fans, that's like, it's very Jets. I'm not making fun of Jets fans, but that's so Jets to like suck for a while and then finally get one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best. And he gets hurt day one. It's a brutal. Someone said he was becoming the new Joe Rogan. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hear you guys. So I have my own opinions too. There's certain people like that, like Lex Friedman, for example. He blocked me on Twitter. That's fine. But every time I watch MMA stuff, Lex Friedman comes up after, and it has like nothing to do with what I'm watching. So, I'm not getting favored by the YouTube algorithm. I think the reason my page hasn't grown, and I'm not complaining, but they don't allow, like they hate my channel. They shadow ban it. They don't allow certain access to things. And with Lex, they're like throwing him in my face. I never disliked him. I just disagreed with him when he interviewed Ye, and I made a point and he blocked me, but it's whatever. I'm not going to hold it against him. It's just like they force him down my throat. So it's like, I don't necessarily care about his podcast. Like if you watch it, that's cool. If not, no one's forcing you. But YouTube kind of is forcing me to watch. Like, they're like throwing him in my face unnaturally at every turn. It's like I'm not even watching those type of podcasts, and they're trying to like everything else in the algorithm makes strategic sense. But with him, I've never seen someone push so hard. I know Darren Beatty makes fun of it all the time on his Twitter account, but it's like that guy's the algorithm king. Like whatever's going on at YouTube, they love that guy. Like they want everyone to watch him. So I've never got that vibe with Russell Brand, but I haven't really looked into it that much. And I know that Russell Brand signed a deal with Rumble. So we'll see. Someone said I used to get Lex, but now I get Jocko. And it might just be that they're like a safe option, they're like or maybe they know somebody at YouTube or something, or their channels are like grandfathered in. I'm not sure. I don't say this from a place of jealousy or anything. It's just like, that I've never seen someone pushed in my face so much. Maybe there's a reason, but whatever. Someone said Jim Brewer is awesome. Love Jim Brewer. He's cool. John said, I don't agree with everything you say, but I do learn a lot from you. Think for yourself with good ethics. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. That's one of the nicest compliments, is I don't agree with you, but I don't hate you. It's like, that's good. The conservative twins are funny. Hodge twins. Yeah, they're super funny. I like them. Someone said JP Sears is awesome. I like his comedy, but I haven't really seen much else from him in a while. He definitely has some funny skits though. Someone said, I never get Lex on my feed. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there's other reasons for it. So Aco said Anomaly is a Democrat. Yeah, I'm not though, but I was at a certain point in my life, sure, but not now. Someone said, you can't cry wolf and you have to have proof. I've known people and it was real, but that's just the reality situation. It's rough out there. There's a lot of accusations. So yeah, I mean, in a just world, yeah, you would have to have proof and show it and be like recent on it. Cause if it's not if something like that happens and you just like really freak out about it, like 10 years later, like to me, that's kind of crazy, like why didn't you do it immediately? Like if it was that bad, that to me, that's a huge red flag. Like there's no report of some of them. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe there is of some. Like I said, I don't want to get into specifics on this one because I don't know. I've seen other ones where it's like Aziz Ansari. Like, I'm like, what? This story is terrible. Like, it's just like some scorned ex-date just trying to embarrass him publicly. Like, it's so evil. Anomaly, who's better than Trump? Chris Christie? I mean, Chris Christie has no chance, so it doesn't even matter. But I made the point that I think that DeSantis is better than Trump like 30 minutes ago. You could rewind back. I had a whole spiel about it, but if you don't think so, I don't care. I honestly, at this point, I don't trust any of these people, and I don't care, and I don't want to argue about it, and I don't like DeSantis enough to like act like he's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I don't think Trump's Aquaman. So this whole like kabuki theater fake Trump DeSantis debate to me is not worth it. I just think analytically DeSantis wields power better. He has conservative principles. He's proven to hire outsiders. And Trump is a guy who didn't do a lot of things, but everyone thinks he does. So I don't see it, but it's all good. Someone said Lex is, the reason Lex blocked me on Twitter, it was interesting because I actually really liked Lex and I still don't dislike him. But, I wasn't justifying everything that Ye said, or I wasn't disagreeing with everything that Lex said. I was just pointing out one little thing, and Lex got mad because I think it went kind of viral. I pointed out that Lex in his debate with Kanye or Ye was like, he was like, you shouldn't talk about groups. You should talk about individuals. You shouldn't talk about groups. There is no group. It's just individuals. Stop grouping people. It's just individuals. Listen, okay, I think that's fair. Every individual is not part of a group. That's, every ethnic or religious person doesn't have to do with everyone else. I agree with that. I agreed with this sentiment that you don't need to group people. But then a minute later, Lex groups himself in that group and says, oh, that's really sensitive to me. Oh, this topic, I am this group. This is my group. This is my group. And this is why you can't say that. This is my group. And this is why I can do this. This is my group. This is my group. This is my group. And then it's like, okay, so you do have, like, I'm not saying you're to blame for everything in your group, but like this fundamental principle of like, you should never group people together and do pattern recognition. It's like, it's so bad to do that because groups don't exist, only individuals. There's nothing that combines us. Okay. And then 30 seconds later, it's just like, okay, I'm that group now because so that was the philosophy that I found. It's like, use the group to leverage power and use the group to essentially, create leverage for yourself and have a victim card and have this. But then when there's time for that same group that you just talked about a minute to have a discussion about it, if it's not everything you wanted to talk about, now it just completely doesn't exist. And that's what I was saying with Tim Pool. And people thought, like, I speak for myself. Everything that Ye does or says, he's not me. We don't dress the same. We don't talk the same. We don't have all the same opinions. Like, we're different people. Just because I say one thing doesn't mean, and that's not me distancing myself or being afraid. It's just true. I'm not him. I didn't drop College Dropout. You know, I didn't make Jesus is king. Like, he's himself. There's no one like Kanye. It's like, you know, he's a very unique person on earth. With that being said, it's like, if I say one thing, people like came to the conclusion that I'm so hateful or whatever. But the point that I was getting to was the same thing with Tim Pool. Tim kept saying, you know, you shouldn't ever group people. It's just individuals. But Tim groups people all the time. He says white Antifa. And when Tim says white Antifa, he doesn't specify. He doesn't say, you know, Antifa is a bunch of white guys, but not all white guys and not me. And I'm not trying to offend all white guys. And it's not all white guys, but there's some white guys in Antifa. Tim doesn't say that. He just says, generically says white guys are in Antifa. It's like, that's the same thing that Ye's doing with a different group. If it's wrong, then it's wrong when you do it. If it's right, then it's right. But I'm not the one crying about words. I don't cry when Tim says white Antifa. I don't ask him to specify. If someone disagrees with Christians on something, I'm not here crying, not all, not all, not all. I'm like, I get what people are saying. They have the right to have opinions, whether I agree with them or not. I'm not the one out here complaining about all that stuff. It's just like, but that was the point I was talking about with Tim Pool. It was like the whole president that people were going for. But I get it, though. I understand it. They do the same thing that left wingers do with racists. Like, it's not smart if you're left wing to have an intellectual discussion about what is and isn't racist. It's smarter to just call everything racist and just pretend like you don't see it and run away because you don't want to be called racist. Like, the right does the same thing with anti-Semitism that the left does with racism, where it's like, it's a topic that it's better to just like not talk about, because if you even have a discussion about it, like, you will be called it, you know? So it's like, there's no groups. Okay, there's no groups, right? But you keep saying white Antifa. What is Antifa? It's a group. What is white? A group. What is Christian? Everything's a group. Doesn't mean to blame everyone. You shouldn't blame everyone. But how are we going to talk about anything if patterns and groups don't exist? There is no New York Giants. It's just a bunch of people on a football field wearing numbers with the same color, but they'd have nothing in common. It's like, there's a certain way that like, there is no discussion to be had. And the truth is, like, you know, that a lot of people don't want to talk about is groups of people when they're in certain races or religions or genders or whatever. It's like, there is different patterns that come across with it. That's just natural. And it's not all bad. I mean, a lot of it's good, but it's like, if a bunch of white liberals run, you know, Dearborn, Michigan, you're going to have different policies, different restaurants, different ideas, different levels of cleanliness, etc., based on those white liberals and how they take care of their neighborhood, etc. And then if you have 100% Muslims in that neighborhood, the signs are going to start turning Islamic. You know what I'm saying? The restaurants are going to be different. Abortion is going to be outlawed. Liberals would let abortion go. Muslims would reject it. That doesn't make you anti-Muslim or anti-liberal or anti-white. Noticing that different groups of people, when in large numbers, will do different things on average. That's just the reality of how it works. Like, you know, they say with America, like, demographics don't matter. It's all about, what is it about? The Constitution doesn't even matter to people. So it's like, can we at least have it be about the Constitution? No, it's not. It's not about the Constitution. What is America's whatever they want it to be? We don't have a culture. We don't have a history. We're just whatever. Like, it's not true. The reality is, like, is China, if you replace 100% Chinese people with 100% white people, it's not going to be the same country. I'm not like, just because it was that and they have the same laws, is it going to be exactly the same now? No, probably everything would change, including the laws, including the culture, including the statues. The same way when liberals come to town, they knock down your George Washington statue and they put up a George Floyd statue. Like, there's differences of opinions, and it's not just race, but it's like race, religion. There's differences, you know, there are. It's just like, even if they're subtle, even if everyone's a human, why, when you go to France, is it different than Italy? Because Italians and French people historically have a different religion. You know what I'm saying? They have a different history. Like, everyone's human. It's nice to be nice to everybody, but this is this fundamental concept that if you talk about anything, you're a racist, you hate people, you want to hurt them when you don't. Like, that's what people try to act like when you say this sort of stuff. It's so weird. Someone's saying, seriously, stop listening to this brainwashing. how is this brain? Like, you must be like, I don't know. You must be lost in the sauce. We'll just say, if you think that this is brainwashing, it's like, what part of what I just said is brainwashing? If you replace 100% of Chinese people in China with white people, do you think China is going to be exactly the same in 50 years? Is that brainwashing to say that? If you replace a white liberal town in America with Muslims and they overturn abortion, is that racist to say that Muslims dislike abortion more than white like what part of this conversation is even remotely controversial? But the controversy is in, to the left wing, anything is controversial. To the right wing, people can't fathom anything outside their false paradigm. So they're like, Trump, Biden, Trump. Like, when I started this live stream, and I'm not trying to like bring this up because it's been nice, but someone was just like, Trump, 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 Trump. Like, it's like like just like word salad coming out your mouth. Like, bro, can we have any or we're like sports ball fans, like sports ball, talk about Biden and Trump. It's like, I don't want to, because it doesn't matter. Like, certain patterns are happening, whether people want to realize it or not. It doesn't matter. Your opinion doesn't matter. If the left thinks it's racist, it doesn't matter. If the right doesn't want to talk about it, it doesn't matter. Because if it's real, it's going to happen anyway. You know what I'm saying? And like with the border, everyone knows this, but like it's crazy. I mean, 50,000, 60,000 people coming per day. Like, those are the biggest thing. All these people coming, millions of. It's like, what is this going to do in 5 years? It's not going to be the same country. Everyone knows that on the right. So this isn't controversial, but it's like, it's insane to let that many people through, unvetted, unregistered, not citizens. Like, it's not, none of this stuff is sustainable. So if the Republican Party gets back into politics, like, what are they going to do? Are they going to just not do anything and just half-ass it like before? It is what it is. And it's like, you could say it's going to be better, it's going to be worse, but I just don't want to be told I'm a hateful person for even having this conversation, because that's just how it works. If India was copy and pasted and you took all the Indian people away and you put a bunch of white people there, it's not racist to say that India would change in a lot of ways. Some would be worse, some would be better. It depends what your vantage point is too. Like, if you're Indian, maybe you want to live in India amongst Indians. Maybe you don't. Maybe you want to live with white people. I don't know. But it's like, maybe you don't care. Maybe you do. It's hard to say what's better or worse, but I think that's the beauty of the world, is that everybody has their own kind of style and vibe. And that's the difference between, having different nations and having like global communism. That's the big lie of left-wingism and even Americanism in some senses, is that they act like they're doing you such a disservice by just mixing everything up. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot. I love cities. I love people. I love every culture. I'm not a hateful person. I think there's great people from every race, every religion. I like having a lot of options to food. There's many pros to living in a multicultural society. Absolutely. But also, if you make the whole world multicultural, then there is no culture. Like, Italy's not going to be Italy. France is not going to be. Everything's going to be the same. It's actually the opposite of diversity, because diversity would be 20 different countries and you go there and get a whole different style. Not diversity would be you go to 20 countries and they're the exact same thing. So the people pushing diversity are actually pushing the opposite, disguised as it, where it's like, I'm fine with cities being cities. I'm fine with states being states. I'm fine with America being America. But like, everyone doesn't have to be like us. It's insane. Like, I was talking to Chad the other day. If you look at what America does, and I think we do some great things around the world, but we always try to make everyone like us. Oh, the Taliban has to be gayer. It's like, do they though? I'm not saying that they're doing all the right things. I'm not like pro Taliban, but it's like, why do they have to be like us? Why does Russia have to be gayer? Ukraine's gay now. Like, why does Africa have to be gayer? Like, you have Republicans like Ted Cruz who are saying that they need to be gayer like America. And it's like, Ted, you complain about America all the time. You complain about the slippery slope here in all your speeches, yet you're trying to bring the slippery slope to Africa when you can't even fix Texas. Like, why does your opinion about Africa matter? It's like, I'm not saying that's right or we're right. You can decide what you think, but it's like, that's crazy that the left wants to make the whole world the same and the right is just controlled opposition. They do the same stuff. That's Americans' foreign policy. Go to this country, increase the slippery slope, you know what I'm saying? And don't allow them to disagree. And that's why, in many ways, Muslims hate America. I don't know if they all hate America. Some love America. It's a beautiful place, but It's like we're trying to instill our slippery slope and our culture and our liberalism amongst their world. And sometimes it's not good to do that. It's nice to let Africa be Africa. If they want to work with people, that's cool, but like they don't have to be like San Francisco. I don't think Uganda has to be like San Francisco. I don't think the Middle East has to be like San Francisco. And for the record, it's like with Israel and Palestine, like people want me to have a stronger stance, but this is my God's honest stance. Like if I felt a certain way, I would tell you. I've never been there. So everything I've seen from Israel and Palestine is a secondhand story. It's a video. You know what I'm saying? This Palestinian did this. These Israelis took this. That's all I know. I've never been there. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Palestinian. It's not like I don't feel super inspired to either side, really, to be honest. And in general, I just think that it's a conflict that my opinion is not going to solve. It's like a very complex situation, but there is some malevolence, I think, going on. With that being said, the only way that I ever talk about this stuff is through the lens of an American citizen who, if Palestine tried to pass a speech law in America to say that I couldn't criticize Palestine, I would disagree with it. Not because I hate Palestine, but because I believe in the First Amendment, and I don't think a foreign country should be having a say of what I can and can't say about them. Like that's not American, but that's what's going on. I mean, America has hate speech loyalty laws that you will be called an anti-Semite and smeared in the media if you are not 100% loyal to Israel. It's like a Israel loyalty law that they will ruin your life if you don't love everything they've ever said or done. And that's the lens I talk about it through. I don't say, oh, I don't want you to exist in Palestine, this, that. I don't even say that because it's like, it's not that I don't care. It's just like if someone comes to me and says, why don't you talk about Yemen and Saudi Arabia? It's like, dude, there's so many crises in the world. I can't be inspired to solve them all because then I'll solve none of them. It's like, I need to solve my own problems before I could go solve a proxy war in Yemen. But I'm not saying if you talk about it, you're bad. It's just that's the lens that I talk about this stuff in. And it doesn't go, I mean, I'm fine, but like it doesn't necessarily go well because both parties are against me. The entire press, including the right-wing press, is against me. They don't want me to think that. So it's like I either have to tell the truth and have my entire character smeared for the rest of my life, which seems to be how it's going to be, or lie and just be like, yeah, I mean, the First Amendment sucks. I mean, who cares, right? That's how patriots, print money and sell vaccines. Yeah, we're going to beat Joe Biden's laptop, guys. The only way to beat the Hunter Biden laptop is to print $6 trillion, give all the money to big pharma, tell Sweden to lock down. That's how we save America's freedom, by fighting Joe Biden. Like, that is the Republican Party right now. Like it wasn't a mistake. They didn't make a mistake. We made a mistake thinking that they were on our side. But if people want to, in this cold, cruel world, if people want to fantasize, cosplay with Donald Trump because they're too afraid to realize he's not that guy, people can do that. It's just not going to turn out the way people want them to, but maybe that's people's coping mechanism as the Titanic sinks, to be like, well, if I just lie to myself about this guy and ignore all reason and logic, then I feel good. It's like, okay, but it's not the case. So, it's whatever. But that literally is the Republican Party. It's like they want you to think that they passed speech laws, infringed on the Second Amendment, ran up the deficit, told Sweden to lock down, literally lost the freedom capital of the world to a liberal socialist Sweden. A bunch of Swedes somehow out-freedom Donald Trump. And then Donald Trump told them that they made a mistake. And then they gave a bunch of socialist money to Big Pharma, who shoved it down your throat. And then the people who gave them the money to do it said, oh, we didn't want that to happen. We just gave them this money. It's like, that's your party, So this is, people say, why don't you complain about Joe Biden more? Because Joe Biden is the obvious opposition. He's a Democrat. He shares virtually none of our values. He's not even believable. He's like a D- actor. He's nuts. I mean, his energy is so dark, especially during COVID. He looked like a straight demon. Like, Joe Biden is obviously not your friend. Joe Biden is obviously not going to push your agenda. Joe Biden isn't a concern. Like, that. I'm looking to be helpful. What's the point of me talking about Joe Biden every day? Everyone that follows me, there's probably less than one person that likes Joe Biden. I don't know if anyone follows me and it's like, oh, I really like Joe Biden. Maybe they exist, but it's got to be less than 1% of my audience. So everyone else, and this is what I'm trying to say, I get that there is a benefit to talking about Biden all the time, but really, I think that most of the Republican economy exists to just make money off you as the Titanic sinks. It's like, how much can I fleece these naive conservatives of as we just sell them out down the river? How much can I suck out of them? And that's like the economy now. It's like, it doesn't even matter about results. It's idol worship of Donald Trump and just suck as much money out of naive conservatives as they possibly can. So that's why I talk about Republicans and Trump a lot, because it's like, if Biden is the obvious opposition that nobody on our side agrees with, right? And everybody talks about him, what's the point of me talking about him? There's no need for me. Like, I want to be useful and helpful. If I'm not useful, what's the point? What's the point of my show if I'm just saying what everyone else is saying? Then I'll just quit. I don't need to do that. There's 1,000 people who do the same thing. So I'm like, if Biden is the opposition that everyone knows, but Donald Trump and the Republican Party are literally not doing what people think they're doing. They're printing the money. They're working with big pharma. They're passing loyalty laws to foreign countries. And when I notice it, the right-wing media smears me quicker than the left, even though I'm not hateful about it. Everything they say is a lie. They run up the deficit. They're not even trying. And you think that they're trying. Well, now we're in a dilemma. Now this is why my channel exists, because you are pledging loyalty to a party that would literally spit in your face before they stop passing their laws. Like, they don't care about you at all. So what's the point of me knocking on the door of the obvious opposition when 100 million plus people are infatuated with the controlled opposition that has proven time and time and time again that they don't share your values? They don't share your values on abortion. They don't share your values on the COVID vaccine. They don't share your values on Sweden. In crunch time in fourth quarter for America, Donald Trump said that Sweden should have locked down when it was obvious that it wasn't true. So Sweden was open, and the opposition to the left, who wants to take your freedom, is telling a liberal socialist country that they're too free. They should take away more freedom from their citizens. How dare them be free? And you're worshiping that? That's why I say what I say, because this movement's not going anywhere until the base wakes up. But a lot of people exist just to not wake you up, ramble you up with Hunter Biden's laptop and cat turd. And you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the whole movement now. It's like people just rambling you up to just, and like, it's not going anywhere. So that's my interpretation of the situation. And I've realized that at this point, especially the last couple of weeks, is they have already predetermined what they're going to say about me and try to prevent me from ever getting an interview like Vivek Ramaswamy again, where it's like, and it was actually right-wing media that started my smear campaign. It was a right-wing conservative news source. And then it translated into a bunch of left-wing, right-wing foreign news picked it up. It's like, it was almost like a pre-planned smear of my name to call me anti-Semitic, to essentially try to blacklist me from anything ever based on something I said years ago when the interview wasn't even about that. What type of anti-Semite doesn't even bring up Israel or anything Jewish in an interview? Like, don't they think if I cared that much that I would have brought that up to Vivek? Like, it wasn't even in the conversation, yet that's what dominated all the headlines. Isn't that a little bit crazy to people? We didn't even talk about Israel. It had nothing to do with it. Why did they do that? I mean, because Vivek seems like, and I'm not saying to trust him, but he seems like the only candidate that challenged that narrative. Watch the Republican debates. Nikki Haley is saying that Israel doesn't need America. America needs Israel. That's what she said. One of them had an Israel pin. Okay, that's fine. But if I talk about it, don't call me anti-Semitic. I get it. These people are running circles, and like, their loyalty to Israel matters more in the Republican Party than their loyalty to their own supporters. Donald Trump would get more negative press if he'd say, something along the lines of anything else besides just like, my vaccine saved 100 million lives. Like, loyalty to you doesn't matter in this party, but loyalty to that will ruin your life. So apparently Vivek found out, I don't know what he said, or like maybe he wanted to cut foreign aid, or he just didn't like Nikki Haley. He wasn't like full blown, like, oh my gosh, they're the greatest country ever. Oh my gosh, I'm on my knees. Please, please, please. I'm so nice. Like he didn't do that maybe one day. So they started freaking out at him. And it's like this whole thing where it's like trying to get him in the direction to listen and follow the rules and not ever speak out against that topic. So it's like, it's like, that's what the party is. I know. And I told people this years ago before they ever published anything about my name or about who I'm not and all this nonsense that they're saying. But I told people this, that there's a reason, and I'm not bragging because I don't need anything. I don't want anything. I'm not asking for attention or help. I've been able to navigate my career myself, so I don't need anything. But you don't think a couple years ago, when there weren't that many Trump supporters, when nobody had a Trump song, when there was none of this going on, you don't think I could have gotten more opportunities or more deals or more times on the news? They determined in 2019, don't let Anomaly anywhere in the conservative media, in the press, any opportunities, because he is a hate monger, because he hates us, because he's hateful. And it's like, what did Anomaly say? Well, he talked about a speech bill, well, what about it? He just thinks that it's going to infringe on the First Amendment. Okay, well, that's hateful. And, it's like, this has already been determined for 4 years. They've already tried to close up certain topics, but, it's not just that too. I mean, that's a big one, but during 2020, it was anybody opposed to the pharmaceutical industry. It's like, if you don't believe in lockdowns, you can't have a Facebook page. You can't, you can't get together. And now there's like a LGBTQ plus one. It's like, if you don't want to wave a rainbow flag in a 3-year-old's face and talk about adult topics, then you must hate everybody. There's an exaggeration with multiple topics where if you disagree with the status quo narrative, they will act like you hate everybody. Like you must hate all gay people if you don't want your kid to transgender at 4. You must hate everybody. That must be who you are. That's who you are. We're going to say that to you. Like they do that with 15 different topics, but I'm just telling you the one that the right compromises on. Let me see. Someone said COVID didn't set this tyrannical emergency precedents. Trump did. Well, to be fair, it's happened in the past under other presidents, but it's like, this is my disagreements with people. People think that Trump just made 20 mistakes. He got fooled. He got tricked. And the more you really look at it, you kind of realize where it's like, he didn't get fooled or tricked. He just isn't what you wanted him to be. And it's like, what do we say with other politicians, right? What's the nicest thing you say where it's like, okay, he's a puppet, right? Bush is a puppet, right? It was Dick Cheney who ran the show. He's a puppet. So if Trump's not running the show and other people are making decisions for him or tricking him, then is it fair to say that Trump's a puppet? Liz Wheeler was like, oh, Trump has to fire his advisors for telling him to say this. And I'm like, does he bear any responsibility for what he says? Like, if I said something, I'm not saying you have to like it or agree it, but like I said it, it's not like someone told me to say it. If someone told me to say something and I said it, then I'm not a real person. I'm just a puppet. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works. Like everything I say, I'm saying. No one tells me to say stuff. If someone tells me to say stuff and I say it, that's my decision as a leader and a whatever I am to say what someone else told me. If Trump's doing a bunch of things because other people are telling him to do it, or saying things because other people told him, and that's the new status quo in the Republican Party, is not directly saying, hey, Trump said this about abortion. And that's what he said. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, that's what he said. It's like Liz Wheeler said, well, who told him to say that? Fire that person. So it's like everybody knows at this point. It's like, okay, is that the case? I don't know. Like if he's constantly deferring to advisors and getting tricked and getting fooled and saying whatever, let's just call it like it is. It's like, he's funny. He's cool. He'll save oil or something, he'll fight back against Joe Biden's laptop or whatever. But like at the same time, he's just another politician. He's he doesn't mean that, Anomaly. He's just trying to win votes. Perfect. He's a politician. That's what they all do. They all flip-flop. Trump flip-flops on abortion. Trump flip-flops on COVID. Trump he's a politician, No, he's not, because I like him more. So he's not, but he is though. And your idol worship of him and your lack of being able to discern it is going to fail. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing what people think they're doing. You're basically allowing the slippery slope to keep rolling down the hill. And every year that you wait to figure out some of the stuff I'm talking about is a year that you're losing. And it's going to happen whether you believe it or not, because it's real. So it's like you're just wasting your own time, kicking the can down the road. And eventually you'll come to a lot of the conclusions that I came to, but it's going to be too late at a certain point, or it's going to be way further along. And maybe that's the way it has to be. But I think people think that lying to themselves over one man is a great way to lead a nation or fix the country. And it's not. The media on both sides has created a false paradigm. It's like they've created a story around Donald Trump. To the left, they've made him the villain. So a lot of people on the right then back him and say he's the hero. And it's like, I'm not saying he's never done anything, but like you really listen to him and watch him, he's just not who everyone thinks he is. He's not even trying to be. He's not even pretending to be anymore. He's not even like he was pretending to be, and now he's just straight up not pretending to be. And nobody seems to care because they've already been conditioned with that narrative of who they want him to be. And that's one of those things where it's like, well, if I want it, I want America to be saved. So I think that in order to save America, I just have to pick a guy and he's going to fix it for me. It's a really like, I wouldn't say lazy, but it's like, it's just like a way to like tell yourself that it's going to be easier than it really is. And it's like, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be crazy. And like, in order to right a lot of wrongs in this country, it's going to be way harder than anyone really is saying. Like, for example, when it comes to crime in cities, Trump's not going to fix it. DeSantis isn't going to fix it. My guess, this is just my guess, is DeSantis would probably try to use his executive power to fix it more than Trump would, because Trump doesn't really do that. But I don't think either of them are going to fix it, because the crime in the cities and what's going on is, yes, the Democrats don't know how to manage cities. Yes, I don't think the way that they're governing it, but it's a people problem. It's not a gun or a politics problem. And the truth is, I mean, this is unpopular, but the left thinks it's a gun problem. They say, oh, there's so much violence because it's a gun problem. The guns are doing it. Take away the guns and violence will go down. It's not true. The left is completely wrong about that. I mean, you could take the guns, you could leave the guns, but the guns are not doing it. It's a people problem. There are cities and states with more guns that don't have that level of crime. It's not a gun problem. It's a people problem. And here's the truth about what the Democrats will say, or I'm sorry, the Republicans will say. They're like, oh, it's a Democrat city. It's a Democrat this. There's other Democrat places where people are not killing each other, and I know that there's more, I would say like more populated places is harder to govern. But in general, it's like you go to Breckenridge, people aren't shooting each other all over the place because the people there are not that immoral. And that's the truth. You could have 10,000 police officers in a city and you could have 0 police officers in another city. And I'm not anti-police, but the city with people that are immoral and want to kill each other over stupid stuff is still going to have more crime than the city with less police, because it's like there's only so much you could do. You could have stricter sentences, you could really police, you could put a cop on every corner, but there's some neighborhoods in this country where you don't even need a cop for a mile and nothing happens. So it's like the left thinks it's a gun problem. It's not a gun problem. The right thinks it's a politics problem. It doesn't help. Democrats are making it worse. Absolutely. I think that it could be flipped and switched, but I just don't think the Republicans would do it anyway. So it's like, at a certain point, we have to look and be like, why is this growing? And, there's economic reasons as well. I think that plays a part when people are desperate, et cetera. I do think there's other factors, but at a certain point, I think in our society, like it's going to get worse and worse in some of these areas. And then there's going to be an awakening and people are going to be like, all right, we're going to have to be a little bit tougher and stop making excuses for it. And someone said it's a not being raised right problem. Absolutely. But it's like you go to certain areas and I guess it's just like, there's going to be more and more people that weren't raised right. There's going to be more and more people that, are not going to act how people want them to act. And it's going to just be the status quo. I don't think either party has a solution for it. And especially on a national scale, I think if a real hardline Republican got in charge in a city, they could actually fix it a little bit, maybe. But I don't think nationally they really can do much. So I'm not even blaming Trump or DeSantis, but it's like if they win the election, a lot of this stuff's not getting better because it's deeper than that, and people aren't going to fix it. I think that El Salvador, that guy, I mean, people would hate it, but he figured out if you can only have one path to trying to make your area more safe, he just went hard line. And I mean, people might say it's illegal or unconstitutional, or I don't, I would have to look at what a president could really do. But in El Salvador, he just went for it. He jailed all the gang members. He went hard line. He had zero excuses. He just went hard. It's like if the people won't act right in your country, like in El Salvador, either you let everybody not act right, or you just go hard in the paint. And it's like, yo, we're gonna fix it. That guy fixed it. I mean, I think that's gonna be this. Like, I'm not saying someone's gonna do it. But if America wants to have safe cities again, it's going to have to be somebody like the El Salvador president who took the crime capital of the world. To me, this is the biggest story of the year that nobody wants to talk about. He took the murder capital of the entire world and turned it into a place that had 100 full days with no murders. It's insane. It's the biggest success story from crime and murder to like none. It's never happened, but he's like a real person. You know what I'm saying? He got in office. He likes Bitcoin. He retweets normal people. Like, he seems like a young guy that's not completely compromised. And he fixed the murder capital of the world, but to do that, you need to have conviction. Trump didn't have that conviction, and he doesn't have that conviction. DeSantis, if I was a betting man on this topic and I said, who would lower crime in America more, Trump or DeSantis? I would think that DeSantis would. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. To me, Trump seems like a talker. I want to please the left. I want to please them. I don't think DeSantis gives a shit about pleasing the left. He just executes and figures out what he has the power to do and does it. That's my analysis. I don't think that Trump would do anything. I think it would be the same old. Maybe. I think DeSantis has a chance to be more like the guy in El Salvador than Trump does. That's my opinion. I can't prove that. That's just my guess. But long story short, it's like that's where it's going to get in this country, And the thing is, it's happening more and more and more all over the place. Like, New York is not what it was 5 years ago. California is not what it was 5 years ago. San Francisco is nowhere near what it is 5 years ago. Someone said you're a traitor to God. I haven't even talked right now about like religion or God. Like, you think I'm a traitor to God because I don't think Trump would fix crime in America? You're psychotic. Like, God, if you don't think Trump could fix all crime, you don't like God. He's my God. I'm totally not crazy. He's my God. He's my God. If you don't like Trump, you don't like God. I didn't even say I don't like him at this second. I just said I don't think he's going to fix crime. It's going to take something more, unfortunately, bigger. But anyway, what were we talking about? Yeah, San Francisco is like way worse than it was 5 years ago. Average neighborhoods are way worse. In suburbs where there were no robberies, people are getting robbed now in like nice neighborhoods because criminals are figuring out they have technology now. Where are people? There's strategic foreign like gangs that are robbing with precision rich people. If they're somewhere and they post they're somewhere, they rob them. Over in Paris, Cyril Gane, he's a French fighter. He won, probably made a couple $100,000. He got robbed of a couple $100,000 when he was fighting because they knew that he was gone. Like, crime is on a different level in this country and in the world. It's on the rise. Violent crime, a lot of like petty crime, theft. San Francisco's worse than it was 7 years ago. LA's worse than it was 7 years ago. Orange County's worse than it was 7 years ago. New York City's worse than it was 7 years ago. New Jersey's worse than it was 7 years ago. Florida, I don't know if it's getting better or worse. Maybe DeSantis fixed it. I'm not sure. I think a lot of places in Texas, I saw a lot of my friends who make videos. They're like, I'm moving to Fort Worth. And then they move to Fort Worth and they're like, dang, my Cadillac converter just got stolen. It's like they moved to Texas to be free and then they got robbed. I'm not saying that that's a bad move. It's just like theft is up. Crime is up. How do you fix it? Someone's got to be tough on it, and tougher than they are now because criminals don't seem to really care for whatever reason. And it seems like it's just like everywhere all the time. Like, homelessness is growing. So long story short, someone's got to get in there and do something, but doing something takes like a very, harsh reality, a real analysis. Like, you actually got to really analyze it and then put together a plan to do it. No offense, but like, what did Trump do in the 4 years he was there on a national scale on that topic? I guess close the border a little more. He still had like way too many people coming over the border, but he did a better job than Biden's doing now. But the numbers were still too high. But he did a better job than Biden. Besides that, nothing was really done. In fact, I think he did a prison reform bill that probably did the opposite. But it's a nice precedent. A lot of people liked it or whatever. But I said the wrong thing. Cadillac converter, however you say it. Catalytic. I don't know. Sorry. I'm not a mechanic. Obviously, if I was, I wouldn't be here. And clearly I don't know how to pronounce that word. But long story short, I'm not, even if you agree with me or you disagree with me and say, well, he couldn't do anything. He didn't have the power to do anything. Okay. So if he doesn't have the power to do anything, how is it going to get better when he's in office? This is like the dynamic that sometimes I kind of talk about, where it's like, let's go with the narrative that he has no power. I think the right president could actually do a little more, but let's go with the theory that Trump has no power, right? He doesn't have the power to fix this stuff. Okay, I agree. How's it going to get fixed then if he wins? It's like, well, because I want it to get fixed because I like him. Someone said catalytic. Okay, got it. But it's like that's the cultism around him, where it's like we can agree that he doesn't have the power to do it, but if he wins, they think they're like, they're creaming their pants, thinking of all their fantasies, like, oh, he's going to lock everyone up on Guantanamo Bay, and the Democrats are going to be scared, and we're going to win all the cities, and we're going to save the country. And it's like, people still don't like us in the cities. We're not winning these elections. He's not doing anything. Nobody's getting arrested besides his supporters. And that didn't happen. So like, why is that going to happen? Because you want it to happen. Like, in order to fix the problems in America, you need someone that knows how to wield their power and systemically actually fix it. I'm putting my money on DeSantis knowing how to fix it. I'm not shilling for him. But I've listened to him talk, and he thinks like that. He thinks like, what can I do and how do I do it? He doesn't do all the right stuff, but he thinks like, how do I wield my power? I know the law. I know who to hire. Trump, it's like a big show. If you're nice to Trump, he'll hire you quicker. Like, it's like My Pillow. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoever, it's like, yeah, that, like, these are my boys. Like, he doesn't think through the issues. Like, here's the power that I'm going to have. How do I wield it? Who do I hire? What exactly can I not do? I don't think he thinks like that. It's more just like, let me get it. And once I got it, I got it. And then it's going to be a fun show. I'll do some cool things. I'll not do some cool things. I'll mess up. I'll be awesome, and it will be what it will be. It'll be like a lot of good stuff, a lot of weird stuff. And it's going to be like haphazard. It's like, that's not, someone said he didn't stop the riots. Of course. Yeah. He didn't stop the riots. Like, and here's what I'm trying to say is like, okay, let's just say he could have, and he failed. Then he failed. He didn't wield his power. He was scared, and then he didn't do it. Easier said than done. I'm not calling him like a scared guy. I wouldn't want to be the president with the BLM riots. That's an insane, crappy position to be in. I don't want it for a second. But let's say he could have done something and he didn't. Then he didn't. But let's go with the theory that he couldn't do anything, that there was nothing he could have done. Then how is the country going to be fixed? If he's in office, we're still locked down. He's shilling money to Big Pharma. He's telling Sweden to lock down. He's sitting in his basement tweeting about BLM and nothing happens. How in the world is he going to fix it next time? Like, he says, oh, law and order. Like, I've seen him in an interview talking about how he'd like stop a riot, like as if he wasn't there in 2020 to not do it the first time. So it's like, it's all hot air at this point for people that still believe that they're like programmed to believe some sort of like Marvel movie where it's like, I'm not saying he has the power to fix a BLM riot, but if he doesn't have the power to fix a BLM riot, how the hell is he going to stop it next time? He's not, he's not going to do that. So how do we stop it? There needs to be another conversation about what's going on and how to fix it, but it's never going to be had because it's like left versus right, Democrat versus Republican, Hunter Biden, John Fetterman is brain dead. It's like basic level stuff. Like, yes, John Fetterman is an embarrassment, but this is what I would say with all that. Yes, it's embarrassing aesthetically to allow people to serve Congress like that. Like, if I served Congress, I'd wear a suit. I'd probably cut my hair too. I don't know. But it's like, if I was in the military, I'd cut my hair. It's not like, oh, let's change all the rules for me because I like my hair. It's like, no, it's not about me. It's about the military. It's an embarrassment. But really, Fetterman is not the problem. He's just showing you what the world is. Like, that's our world. he's, it's like he's a joke, but so is everyone else. He just can't talk or dress or walk. I don't know what he can and can't do. He has a mustache now. I don't know. It's like that conversation's a conversation. It can be had. It should be had. But, some of these other things, like I'm excited, and I'm not looking too far in the future because I'm trying to live in the moment. But like whether Trump wins or not, I'm excited for after Trump because people are finally going to wake up. Like say he's in office. He has 4 more years. Nothing changes that much. He doesn't do that much. Like, can we move on at a certain point? Can the left move on from hating him? Can the right move on from creaming their pants over him? Like, can we have a moment where we like wake up and like, cause like, a lot of times too, like if you follow a lot of Trump accounts and meme accounts and stuff, they're not trying to ever move on. It's like, well, maybe Don Jr. can run. It's like, bro, we don't need 1,000 years of Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like he had a moment. Now, can we get to someone else? Can we give someone else a chance that like, no, like I'm excited for when it's all over. Cause then we can figure out like, now we don't have these excuses. No one's giving DeSantis these excuses. No one's giving Ted Cruz these excuses. And I don't want them to win. I'm just saying like, we need a guy that people don't obsess over that they make stupid excuses for. Like whether he wins or lose, like if he loses, he's never going to stop complaining about it and running people in circles around it. It's never going to end. It's like, it's going to be the Republicans party is like done. You know what I'm saying? Even the last 2 years, like I noticed right away, this was my instinct when Trump was talking about January 6th, when it was November and December, and he's like, my vaccine election. I started noticing that although I think people should care about the election, Trump was basically taking them away from reality into Trump world, where it's like, don't think about the lockdowns. Don't think about the vaccines. Don't think about the bipartisan corruption or the economy or the money printing or all the stupid crap I just did. Don't even think about the fact that you have to wear a mask on an airplane. Just wear a mask on an airplane and come out to see me talk, and then we're going to fix the problem. And I was telling people, I was like, I want Trump to win the election, but the fact that he was in office and all this stuff's going on anyway just shows that it doesn't even matter as much as people think it matters because, it's happening right now and he's the president. So he couldn't even stop all this. And he was in on 80% of it. And people were like, no, we got to talk about the election. Okay, got set up at the Capitol. Then it's like Mike Lindell comes around. He's like, in August, Patriots, Trump will be back in August. Trust me, Steve Bannon. And it's like, okay, now Mike Lindell is now brainwashing people to not care about reality till August. So now November, December, January, February, March, April, months are going by. No one's talking about the lockdowns. Nobody's preparing to fight the mandates that are incoming. Nobody's organizing on that. Everybody's revolving around Donald Trump. And now he keeps repeating the narrative. It's like people have been stuck in loop for 3 years and they use that narrative to have nobody ready to deal with all the problems that were coming, a lot of which were bipartisan. Because if you could take them into Trump election world, now they're not paying attention to 2 feet in front of them. It's like, it's such an obvious scheme where it's like, follow me on True Social. We'll say the same 6 things on loop. We'll do nothing about it. We'll gaslight people. We'll call DeSantis funny names and we're going to win, Patriots. And we're going to do law and order. And those Democrat riots, we're going to stop those. And just don't pay attention to the fact that, I was in office in 2020 when the George Floyd riots happened. I couldn't do anything about it. And if I could have done something and I didn't do it, then that means I did a bad job. Or if I can't do anything about it, then I'm lying about being able to fix it when I'm in office and it doesn't matter anyways. But don't think about that stuff because in order to be part of this movement now, you can't think. You shouldn't think. Thinking is bad. You only think about the other side or you say funny names about Chris Christie, but you don't think about like this stuff because if you think too much, you're going to get kicked out of this movement. Like to me, that's like the obvious thing that I've seen the whole time. It's like, why aren't we talking about this, and this? Oh, we can't talk about this because we're running circles around that guy. But all the problems I wanted to talk about were happening before Biden got there. Like it's November 2020. Trump's the president. We live in a country that's run by Donald Trump. And there's all these things happening to us right now. And nobody wants to address them because they're running circles around this narrative and they're not double tasking. It was like a wild moment, it was definitely a wild, bizarre moment in time and it's still going. That's just how I see 2024. I'm like, if he wins, people are going to have their head in the sand for 4 years. If he loses, he's going to control the narrative for 4 years. It's like the Republicans, unless people snap out of it, it's almost like I just don't know. I don't think this movement's really going anywhere, So let me see. Trump even fools his buddy Mike Lindell so bad that he's going insane. Well, I have that video. I mean, do you guys want to see the video? I have the video of Mike Lindell saying in January that Trump was going to be there on January 20th, like 100%, and he lied. And then after that, he never admitted that he did that. And then he went on he went on Steve Bannon and he said, Trump will be back in August. Trust me. It's like, dude, and these are the people that people want to follow. I want to say this too, because I did want to talk about this in another stream, but I'd rather do it at the end of a stream like now. I made a video about Mike Lindell's lumpy pillows, and I thought it was funny, and I thought I was respectful about it. I thought I definitely was. I for sure was. I tried to be as graceful as possible because I'm like, listen, I don't hate Mike Lindell, but whether you love him or you don't, like, this is hilarious. Him freaking out in a deposition over lumpy pillows. It is funny. Like, even if you like Mike Lindell, even if you are Mike Lindell, if I was Mike Lindell and I freaked out about lumpy pillows in a deposition and people started sharing it, I would think it's funny. I'd be like, damn right, I defended my pillows. It is hilarious, but it's a movement. But I put that up and people were freaking out about me. They're like, how dare you? Mike's a patriot. It's not funny. He's going through a lot. It is funny. Even if I'm going through a lot and I post a video like that, it's funny. I could be going through stuff now and I posted a joke about, Tim Scott. If I post this, but I'm going through a lot, it doesn't mean that it's not funny. It's absolutely hilarious. You're allowed to laugh at it. So it's like people were ratioing me saying, oh, it's so not funny. He's such a patriot. And I'm like, I also pointed out later in the episode where I was like, he says that he thinks that there was funny business in Florida because DeSantis won. So when we lose elections, we're a victim. When we win elections, we're cheating. How are we going to win elections when a guy like Mike Lindell will tell a bunch of patriots during a lockdown that Trump's going to be back in August? Like, Mike Lindell was a huge Q pusher. He was like promo code Q, and he wouldn't directly do it, but he was fueling a lot of that movement where it's like, oh, patriots just support Trump. And it's like, bro, you're telling people Trump's going to be back in August. And that's not true. Like, you're gaslighting people, and it's kind of evil because it's like they look up to you as an authoritative figure, and you're just straight up just telling them things they want to hear. Oh, don't worry, patriots. Trump will be back in 4 months. It's like, dude, he's a phony. But it is what it is. And I was a lot more graceful in my other video, and then people were crying about it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is what most people like. Like, it's not shocking to me that this country is where it is. The left has gone fully insane, and the right looks up to Donald Trump, the father of the vaccine, and a pillow salesman who tells them that he's going to be there in August. And it's like, our party's a joke. It's not saying the Democrats aren't, but I get in more trouble for pointing out that Mike Lindell lied than Mike Lindell actually lying. Like, I hope he beats his court case. I think he's a nice guy, but it's like he's built a bunch of this idol worship in the Don and just set false dates like QAnon, trying to get people's hope up. And that's what people like. Like, Republicans get scammed because they like getting scammed. You get what I'm saying? I could like Mike Lindell, say he's a nice guy, but just be like, at the same time, when you have that authority, maybe you should think twice about telling people that Trump's going to be back in August, because that's not true. And you're now becoming fake news. You're kind of lying. Like, you can do both of those things, but that's not what Republicans want. Most Republicans, they want to be lied to. They want to be scammed. They want to be conned. And as long as you say, Jesus, Jesus, pillow, Jesus, Jesus, pillow, then they'll like you. And that's a fundamental issue that I see with the party is like, I don't think we're the victim of Democrats. I don't think we're the victim of the 2020 election. I don't think we're the victim of Big Pharma. I think our party's in on it. I think our party's in on it. I think Trump's in on it. And I think that our movement glorifies and obsesses over people who are good scammers. Like, it's like scamming people in the Republican Party is like a thing that people really badly want. And if you tell them that they're getting scammed, they get like really mad at you. So it's like, how are you the victim to Joe Biden's laptop when you're begging to get scammed? And if anyone points out that you're getting scammed, you get more mad at them than the person who scammed you. It's like Republicans aren't victims. And all of these narratives around Democrats are just controlled up, not because Democrats are good. I'll vote Republican every every time. I'm just saying, like, all these people that you're following are going nowhere. They're not even trying to help you. They're purposely misleading you. And every time they do it, you reward them and praise them and say great things. And then if someone points it out, like, they're the bad guy. It's like, okay, so if Trump says the vaccine saved 100 million lives, that's okay. If Mike Lindell says that Trump's going to be back in August, like, we're playing make believe, right? The vaccine saved a billion, trillion, gazillion lives. Trump's going to come out of a submarine and he's going to jump onto the land of California and declare, I am the king. And then it's going to rain vaccines down, but they're not real vaccines. They're secret vaccines that are therapeutics. Ivermectin, Tin Man. What is Tin Man? Wizard of Oz. Behind the curtain. That's when the curtain's going to be made of MyPillow Gizo sheets. Promo code QAnon. Trump will be back in August. And if you don't even want to believe that anomaly and you want to report that that's not true, what do you hate? A good Christian man anomaly? We love getting scammed. How dare you point out the scam? He's a good man. He's a good man that I follow. It's like, what? Okay, sure. Then this is what we're going to get. We're the party of McDonald's, vaccines, and debt. Welcome to here. We'll do it. We'll do the song again. Hopefully the video doesn't freeze. It absolutely might. I think I probably just blew it. Let me see. I shouldn't have clicked that button. Darn it. I just ruined the stream. Unfortunate. Hopefully it unfreezes. I shouldn't have done that. Damn it. Oh well. Stupid. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com. So check the links below in the description or just type in on any browser, stayintouchwithme.com, all one word. You'll find my email list, put it in there, and it's the least annoying email list you'll ever be on. I barely use it because I don't like getting emailed every day or every week. It's annoying. So I don't do it. Stayintouchwithme.com. It helps me take back some power away from big tech. Telegram, t.me/dreamrarechat or @dreamrarechat. Due to censorship, I post all my live stream and videos there. Sometimes I have some bonus content, and I try to give people a heads up when Facebook or YouTube won't. DreamRareChat at Telegram. My Instagram is @DreamRare. Thanks for everybody following there for shorter content. And DreamRareLinks.com. That's DreamRareLinks.com. Has all my stuff. My podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, my music on Spotify and Apple, my Rumble page, my BitChute and Gab page. All my links are found at DreamRareLinks.com. Thanks for watching, folks. God bless you. You already know I'll be back with more content soon. Appreciate you.